Welcome to the Scale Model Podcast. In this podcast, we aim to entertain, inform, and promote the hobby of scale model kit building with interviews, reviews, and news about the hobby. The podcast is available bi-weekly where your favorite podcasts are found, including iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. You can also get it from our website at scalemodelpodcast.com, where you can find show notes, photo gallery, and so much more. You can also subscribe to get notifications on all our updates, new episodes, and video content. Please support the Scale Model Podcast on Patreon. Patreon supporters enjoy early access to content and exclusive contests. Your Patreon support helps us to offset hosting and other costs to bring the podcast to you. Welcome to the Scale Model Podcast, episode 123, sponsored by Cult TV Man, Sean's Custom Model Tools, and Return to Kit Form. I'm your host, Stuart Clark, and the gang is all here. We actually have everyone, probably because it's episode 123. You know, we'll just call it the count episode or something like that. Let's start off with our good friend from the North Shore of Lake Erie, where he is still going strong, running that event space. Mr. Jeff Highland, how are you, sir?
I'm suffering from trying to do too many chores around the house to get it presentable for this first wedding guest group. But another 2 weeks and we'll be done with that first one.
And then you have another one. See, you know, there's got to be some tax write-offs.
No, there's no money coming in, so there's no tax write-offs. It's pure volunteering.
You need to talk to your accountant. I'm just saying.
Goodness of our hearts.
All right. And then also making a return appearance from his world tour that he's found a few days to come back into town, Mr. Anthony Goodman. How are you, sir?
Hello. I'm awesome. How you doing, guys?
Not bad. Pleasure to see you again. And then, of course, from west of Chicagoland, wrangling dogs in check and all that other good stuff, it's Mr. Terry Maisley.
Good evening.
How are you tonight?
Doing pretty good.
That's good. You got rain there?
A little bit here and there.
Yeah, same with us.
I'm operating low on sleep, but that's what they are.
It's been a busy couple of weeks. So, all right. So as always, you know, you can always support the show via Patreon or buy me a coffee. You can check those out in the show notes at scalemodelpodcast.com. So let's get started with the latest news. The Moosaroo Cup, it's official. It's announced. We did an unboxing. I worked with Just Making Conversation, and they did the unboxing at midnight UK time. It's an ICM 172nd Euro 4320 truck in Ukrainian service. And this year, we're allowed to do whatever we want to it. So you can add stuff to it, all that. It's a nice scale to work with. The build looks very good. I did an unboxing review, which I've got linked to the show notes there. At least it wasn't a ship with a lot of fiddly photo etch. I heard rumors, Jeff, they're saving that for you.
You're so kind. Well, that'll be 2 years from now. It's Terry's turn, or Anthony's turn, maybe even next year.
Might be.
Yeah, I'll jump back in.
Might be. Exactly. So, we're allowed to do that. We have until March. We're allowed to do a base. We're allowed to do whatever we want to it, as long as it's recognizable as the truck. So there has a Facebook group informed. I'm still thinking about what I'm going to do. All sorts of different ideas.
It just came to me. I saw somebody else posted a Barbie Fett on Facebook. Basically,
that crossed my mind. It crossed my mind.
Barbie colors.
Yep, totally crossed my mind. Yep.
I think you do a Barbenheimer version of
Barbenheimer.
Truck.
That's an idea. Yeah, no, I debated that too. Chris Meddings is already going to do one as a destroyed one. He's already claimed that. So all sorts of ideas.
But that's easy. That's easy. I mean, that means you can just screw up the model, smash it, and there's your destroyed one.
A little bit more than that, But nope. So some interesting ideas. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with it yet. But I have taken it out, fondled the plastic, and that it looks like a very nice kit, actually. So it should be fun. I remember being a kid doing those Matchbox 176 armor kits with a little display base in that. So, and you know what? The only time I've ever won an award, I don't enter contests often, was for a 172nd scale Airfix Mark I tank from the First World War. I won a third at one of our shows.
Lucky omen.
Yeah, that could be a lucky omen. So we'll have to see what happens there. Okay, moving on. IPMS NAT. So we're recording this on Monday, the 7th of August. NAT's just finished. It looks like another amazing show. There were 3,079 models on the table, gentlemen.
And amazing.
That's incredible.
Absolutely amazing. They have already linked, some people through the Facebook pages have linked the slideshow from the awards banquet. And we're going to scroll right down near the bottom, just to kind of look at the best of class awards. So best use of IPMS convention special decal. So this is one that you can build a model using the previous decal sheet. From what I understand, this decal sheet of this F-14 was from 2008. So, and then we have the best aircraft, Ken Roberts, and you can click on the individual one to get in there. And absolutely gorgeous. Now, a couple of people asked, where's the prop? Well, it's off to the side on a special display base. If you look over the left wing, it wasn't broken, it wasn't missing. But again, absolutely gorgeous looking. This is a Devastator, right? If I'm not mistaken, yeah. Look at the opening in the air brakes there, etc.
I was thinking that looked like a Dauntless, but
Maybe sorry, Dauntless. No, maybe you're right. Someone's gonna correct me. And
yeah,
then
the Devastators has
Not
more.
sure where you are.
right near the bottom, Ken Robert best aircraft. Just scroll all the way down. It'll take a while.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's-
grab the. Now, is Ken Roberts the name of the sponsor? Because I don't see anybody else's name.
No, sponsors at the bottom there. Ken Roberts best aircraft. Ken is the builder.
Because it's odd because the same person who won the military one has a different name. A Ken Gerber military.
Oh, I see what you're saying. They didn't have his. It's actually
then-
George Lee. They forgot his name there because
Yeah.
Okay.
that one actually won best in show as well. Art Gerber. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's a bit. Yeah, they screwed up something there. Anyway, this vehicle, this is actually a Renault Caterpillar Carrier from the First World War. This is entirely scratch built.
I know, it's
That's
insane.
incredible.
Yeah, it also won best of show. And rightly so. Just absolutely gorgeous.
Well, to be honest, when it comes to best in show, when it comes to best of anything at this place, I was blown away by the quality of the vast majority of these builds. I mean, they were just overall. I would not have wanted to be a judge because it looked pretty tough.
Yeah, and then you've got a Japanese rifleman for best figure, and again, just look at some of the detail there. You can actually click the zoom, and it's just scary.
Oh man,
it reminds me of why I don't do figures.
Wow,
that's amazing.
Yeah, and we have the best ship. Again, these were done quickly because they had to get the slides for the.
But they're pretty good pictures. I mean, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good depth of field.
Yep. Best automotive. This bike, again, this was entirely scratch built.
Yeah, that's very impressive. These are great photos. Honestly,
there we go.
The I don't know if you noticed this about our Wonderfest experience, Terry, but they didn't do a great job at posting the entries or the winners. Like there was no awards banquet, which I kind of missed.
You need organization for it. That's the
thing. There's a banquet, but there's no awards ceremony, and that's probably not coming back.
Yeah, but that was a thing, and I remember in the past.
Yeah, that was always good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of a good. It's a completion. Recognition for the people who got the awards. It's kind of a nice wrap up, and I was sort of surprised that it wasn't there. But they were they didn't get there. I'm not sure how quickly this appeared, this list of winners and the photos, the entries and whatnot. But yeah, this is great. It's these are very clear, and you can kind of see what.
Yeah, this is where you need a dedicated photo team to do that, and that's what they do.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Next up, speaking of Wonderfest, because this one was at Wonderfest.
Yep.
And it was the scratch built 1-144 Rebel Blockade Runner.
Awesome.
That's Bobble Youngs, and I'll get him on the show. We're going to talk to Bobble.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous
That's
kit.
just a stunning piece
and it's
of
such a special
really
kit. It when it flies, it has its own seat. Yes, he buys 2 seats, one for him, one for the kit.
Well, he builds a crate for it, and
that's right.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna have to.
Best diorama. I love this one. I saw this one the first couple of days. The Wine Taster's Return. Again, a diorama tells a story. So you've
That's
got the
great.
military police, and obviously these guys are going by, and they went, "Oh shit, the general's here," and let's keep going.
That's awesome. Very
That's
clever.
awesome. And then we have miscellaneous, this gorgeous looking engine, Pratt and Whitney Wasp engine. I'm assuming that's scratch built. I saw some
Um,
other pictures of it from the side, and again, it looked
What?
absolutely.
No, it's not. It's Williams Brothers kit.
Oh, is it the Williams Brothers? Oh, yeah. So you're right. I did see some pictures of it, like from different angles, and again, gorgeous shot.
Very clean.
That's great.
Very
Yep.
clean.
And then we had People's Choice, most popular model. And this was a nice little thing with the downing of Admiral Yamamoto's.
Very good. You got it
Very
right
good.
off.
Got it. There you go. By a P-38, and nice looking diorama there.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then, as I said, the grand award was again that wonderful caterpillar, I believe, from Art.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, slightly different angle on that. Absolutely beautiful. Yep, a lot of our other podcasts were there. Everyone seemed to have a good time. A couple of announcements. Andy's Hobby Headquarters announced they've released 2 more 1/16th kits. The Achilles, basically the same thing. The British Achilles M10 tank destroyer and the M10 tank destroyer, both in that monster 1/16th size. Magic Factory had their 148th Corsair we've talked about before.
Yep.
And the link, is the link broken now? Oh, so it
Yeah,
is.
we'll fix that.
Oh, actually, no, it's there. It's just under the top contributor to be released. It works for me.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then what else? Okay, Anthony, you want to talk about some Gundam news?
Yeah, we can do a little Gundam update. It's probably been a while, right?
It has, because we don't know this stuff. We rely on you.
Right. And I'm a veritable wealth of information, right?
Mhm.
As I
All
scroll through
sorts
to
of
see what's
all
new.
sorts of again, dozens and dozens of releases.
Yeah, so I mean, there's so much going on with this franchise that a lot of the news is not exactly model related, but this is something of interest for me and probably for a lot of people is that this isn't hot off the presses, but forgive me. About a month or so ago, 2 months ago, maybe it was the 200th master grade model. So that was
Oh wow.
was released. It was a version Katoki of the venerable Zeta Gundam, and so there's been a couple different versions of this kit. And this is from the classic 1985 series, arguably one of the best series of Gundam animation, the lead machine, and it got the Katoki version. So Hajime Katoki is a mecha designer and maker. He's been around for a long time, and his claim to fame is that he put a very kind of mechanical, realistic spin on a lot of sort of established designs. So he'd kind of upgrade them and make them a bit more technical looking, if you will. So they're covered in stencils like you'd find on a modern fighter jet, that kind of thing. And then they're always refining the engineering on these kits. So this is, I think, the third master grade version of the Zeta, and there was one back in the 90s when they first released that kit line of model kits, and they were supposed to be kind of more advanced, more in depth. They're larger scale at 1/100, so it's a beautiful looking kit, and they've tried to capture it. Transforms it transforms from like a jet mode basically into the mecha mode, and they tried to capture that so that you don't have to take parts off. So when you see it transform in the show, so in its native environment, you don't have to. There's no large hand coming in to take something off and then stick it back on once some pieces happen. It kind of happens in this mechanical, magical way, right? So they've tried to recreate that in the engineering, so you don't have to take something off of your hand and stick it back on to keep it more true to the source material. So that's a beautiful kit, and that's been out. I think we saw them for sale at Wonderfest. I think one of our traveling companions grabbed one. Looks like a beautiful kit. So that's a really notable release. And I did watch a few breakdown videos where they do the parts review and all that stuff, and it does look pretty fantastic. I may have to get one. But yeah, there's a couple interesting things coming up. There's another film for there was a the one of the latest series is called Hathaway's Flash, and that was a I think it was a series of novels from the late 80s by the creator Tomino. And nothing ever happened other than these novelizations or novels. They were um, just a kind of a not a relic, but kind of just that they just what they were, a novel. And they recently got um, it really came out as a movie trilogy. Part one came out, I think, in 2021, and so it's a three-part movie series. We just got news that the second part is in production. So, and the first part was astounding. It was amazing, and it had a whole set of mobile suits and a whole story and returning characters from the original shows. I thought it was super well done. Really liked it. It was kind of a bit more serious, kind of aimed at older fans or the adult fans, and it was really cool. The model kits that came out from that series were awesome, and we've talked about some of them before. The Penelope and I think it's the Kasai Gundam, and yeah, they're tremendous, right? And so we got some news that the second film installment is in production, which is pretty awesome, and you can catch it on Netflix. And it may not make a lot of sense to not like a great starting point if you're interested about Gundam, but it is a beautiful film and a neat story. And of course, there's a ton of new model kits coming out, and I'm going to flip over to Gundam Info to see what it says. August 2023 Gunpla lineup. Holy moly, full mechanics, 100 scale, Forbidden Gundam. Wild stuff.
Absolutely a ton of stuff. And again,
Yeah,
it's
there's
just
gonna be-
reinforces how
I'll give you the
popular.
top three here. So we
Yep.
have, let me just see what we've got here. So like I mentioned, the Forbidden Gundam from Gundam Seed. And there we have the 144 scale Oltlind, a 144 scale Gundam Rose, and a Gundam Calibarn. And these are the last one from The Witch from Mercury, which is the current TV show that is airing right now. So it has a whole slew of mobile suit kits and new mobile suit designs. It's quite interesting. So just a ton of stuff. It's hard to keep up with all of it.
Well, they just keep, it's bigger and bigger. I did notice they have one from Mega House G Structure from Moto from Gundam the Witch from Mercury. It's like
Yes.
like a launch bay or a transport container. That looks kind of cool.
Yeah,
There's
there's
some
so much
diorama.
interesting stuff from that. And recently that TV show stirred up a little bit of controversy in I guess the fandom press and
Oh,
all that
really?
stuff where
Do tell.
yeah,
Do
so
tell.
this show, The Witch from Mercury, I think it's just in its first season. People are watching every episode as it comes out, and Bandai's been really good about getting the translated versions out almost at the simultaneously as it's airing on Japanese television.
Mhm.
So it's a bit of a it's aimed, I think, at more of a teenage, younger market. They're trying to bring fans to the franchise. It's set in an alternate world, as opposed to the original series and Zeta and the one I mentioned, Hathaway's Flash. So it's kind of a new thing. They've often brought in new talent, new writers, to kind of do it like a take on Gundam, and they can do their own thing if it's an alternate world. So in this one, it's aimed at a younger fan base. It's also sort of an interpretation of The Tempest, and it's set in sort of a high school environment. So you can kind of see they're aiming it a bit at that age group. And of course, they have all these model kits to market as well along with it. So in the story, it's a little bit. I haven't kept up with all the episodes, but there was some kind of relationship between the two characters. They are part of these different schoolhouses, and they have to compete with their mobile suits for to win, not to the death, but they have all these duels, and it's all based on these different houses dueling. I guess kind of like a Harry Potter style thing. They duel for who's the head house or whatever, and they have these mobile suits, and the mobile suits are basically these different things being tested for all these corporate sponsors. if that kind of sums it up. And then there's all these rules set up for these duels, right? And the winner sort of can define what the what the spoils of are, the result of the duel. And so in one of them, this person, the main character, the witch from Mercury, her name is Soletta, and she wins a duel and then is like pledged to marry this other person, and it's another girl, right? So there's sort of this lesbian take on anybody can get married. It's just part of the and it may not be describing it very well, but Bondi, there had been an interview with the voice actors who were doing these characters, and they were discussing sort of the plot points and the motivations of the character and whatnot, and they were kind of talking about it like it was a set thing, like, yeah, it's a lesbian relationship, there's these gay characters in it, they're just part of the the fabric of the cast or whatever. But then the head honchos at Bondi Visual, through an interview in Gundam Ace, which is like a kind of a news magazine, kind of walked it back and sort of edited out
Oh dear.
parts of the people's comments.
So now that's going to get everyone on both sides up in arms.
Sure.
There's never a good reason for the corporate to get involved in that kind of
No.
Yeah. But the problem is that it's a paper, like I think you can buy Gundam Ace at the newsstand, which is still kind of a big part of Japanese like pop culture consumption. And they went ahead and re-edited the like digital version because they could, and then wrote something about, well, we want to leave it as an open interpretation, which is fine, right? Because a lot of pop culture products are just that. You interpret the way you read it. And so it's kind of an interesting thing, but that's right in the news. That's the big news about this stuff. And and then you get your model kits, and you get your Pathways Flash Part 2 is coming. And hey, this is an interesting one. Gundam creator Yoshiyuki Tomino honored as a person of cultural merit. That's kind of an interesting thing. He's getting a bit older, so he might be at, I believe that he's sort of he's been very active, but I think that he's slowing down, and it may be his last project coming up. That was some speculation. And there's another neat one I'll slip in there real quick if I can find it here. They're talking about Gundam styled manhole covers that are being installed in different cities around, and they're really neat. They're like very, very artistic, and they're obviously built to last. Like they're full on manhole. Where did I see that?
Anthony, the conspiracy theories are going to start. This.
Children,
right?
Don't go in the sewers. Remember, there's no model kits down there.
Yeah, it's a launch bay. It's a launch bay.
Yeah.
It is too late, Mother. I live in the sewer now.
But there are these really neat. I'll have to find the link and post it.
Okay, throw it up. Yeah, we'll do that in the show notes as well.
So there you go. You're all caught up on your.
There you go.
News.
That's awesome. Okay. Sci-fi. So Small Space, which we've talked about in the past. It's a nice little show in the UK, not far from where my parents were. My good buddy Phil Parker does a lot of stuff for Model Railroad, Garden Railroad. He was there, and he had some photos. And again, this is an awesome show if you're into like particularly British sci-fi. We talked about it last year. So Phil has some awesome photos from the show, some Doctor Who stuff, silent running stuff, force field generators, Space 1999, Blake 7, you name it, it was there. And this is a great little show. I'd love to attend sometime. So just some great pictures. So I threw up Phil's album, and I also threw up the actual website for the show. And it's literally in like a public village hall every year. And they had the Who-mobile, which was kind of cool to see. It's been a while since that's been out. So if you're a lover of British sci-fi, you're going to recognize a few things here. So I just had to include that.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah, it is.
It's a very distinctive sci-fi style, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cyberman heads, all kinds of goodies.
Yeah.
All sorts of good things. Exactly. Alrighty. So Anthony's also, he managed to get us a special prize.
Oh yeah. So to to coincide with our excellent and in-depth interview with Rob Booth, Secretary of IPMS USA, I was able to secure a special prize. It's just called the Special Prize. And you know what it is? It's a free membership to IPMS USA for 1 year, care of the executive board. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And yeah, so to get in on that sweet action, please send your whip to scalemodelpodcast@gmail.com. All of our Patreons, you're automatically into it.
Yep.
And this, if you're already a member, this will just cover your next year. And if you're not a member, hey, now you've got access to entering the contest at next year's NATS. You can start planning right now. You're going to get the really cool magazine that they put out, and you'll have membership. You can vote on the upcoming election to help steer where that's going, and to hear more about what's been happening. You can go back, I think, 2 episodes to episode 121, and hear the first part of our interview with Rob Booth, and you can hear part 2 later on in this episode.
Exactly. Okay, mailbag. Not much in the mailbag because everyone was at Nats. So as always, if you want to write us, scalemodelpodcast@gmail.com. Okay, hobby announcements. So we did talk about Trumpeter's 1/32 scale TBD that came out, the Devastator. Well, of course, not far behind are the aftermarket items. So AirScale Pro has a bunch of sets. The Devastator cockpit set for £27, full-on cockpit update. And it does look nice.
Yeah, it does. I think it really dresses it up, and there's some stuff that just frankly is better as 3D printed.
Yep,
like
exactly.
that dual 30 caliber mount in the back. And a lot of those.
That's actually available separately. Yes.
Oh, good. Because a lot of those Devastators, they had that last set of canopy just removed. It wasn't worth putting on, so those guns were always available.
Yep. So you got the twin M1919 30 cal midway twin mounts for £7.50. Again, very nice 3D printed.
Man,
complete with the mount to fit the kit's gunner's ring structure, 3D printed. Fine detail. Yeah, just absolutely gorgeous. And then you have the early wheel set for £5.95.
Wow, that's
and
really
then you've
something
got the
else,
late wheel set. Yeah, a lot of people have been waiting for this kit. And then, of course, you got the wing fold inserts.
Yeah. And like I said, when some of the guys have started building it, they've had issues with, the quality of the wheels, especially, and some other stuff. But the wing folds look great, and they use bits of the kit parts as well.
Yeah.
So that
utilizes the kit hinge.
Yeah, that hinge, so a styrene should be a little bit better than most of the 3D printed bits for strength wise, anyway.
Less fragile, less.
Yeah.
I think it's.
It looks excellent.
Nice. Yep, I'm looking forward to seeing some completed works on the tables in the future. I think it'll come up really nicely. Okay, next up, our friends at Mini Art. They've got 1/35 scale, perfect for your diorama. A 250-gallon water trailer, the Water Buffalo, coming soon. I suppose you could put wine in too.
That's awesome. But back in Scouts, back in the 70s, and we always had these. They were always around at the big events because there was no running water anywhere.
Right.
So they'd bring them in. Yeah, it was.
That's awesome.
Yeah, our friends
always
of the modeling
tasted
news.
Like steel.
Yeah, our friends of the modeling news have some pictures from the original product showing all the different things. Yep.
I'm gonna have to get one of these just to have it.
Yeah,
that's cool.
They did use them. Yep, fleet service, all sorts of stuff. Being used during the air. Go ahead.
That's one of the things I like about Mini Art is when, particularly on their page, they put a lot of good archival photos of the vehicles in use.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, like, these are just really worth their weight in gold, just the pictures themselves.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, and the sprues look good. Has some photo etch as well. A couple of different decals.
Their subjects are just outstanding for all the diorama bits and everything, and tractors to pull stuff around, and
so
it's great.
Military Air Transport Service, Andrews Air Force Base in Hawaii in 1949. Europe during the war, 1950 in Germany. Unknown Unit Medical Department, U.S. Army, 42 to 45. North Africa. Yeah,
Oh yeah, I'm buying
I
one of these.
Yeah, I would do the Andrews Air Force Base for sure. That looks
Yeah.
so cool.
Exactly. Okay, trumpeter in October. Couple more. So the 35th scale short range anti-aircraft defense system. This is the 96KS Panzer BAZ 6909. 8-wheeled heavy track, precisely molded 30 millimeter twin machine guns and anti-aircraft missiles. That's going to be a big kit. 900 plus parts, 29 sprues.
That's big.
A lot of fiddly parts, I would think.
I want to go back to the mini art. So, guys, look at this. There's more as you scroll down that.
Oh yeah,
page.
there are other releases. Yeah,
the figures they do are just fantastic.
Yeah, they got the waiters and all
French
that.
civilians, waiters, yeah, auto travelers, the tank crews. There's Soviet and U.S. tank crews, and they look like Soviets and U.S.
I don't know how they handle all those SKUs.
Yeah,
they literally have hundreds of SKUs.
It's amazing, right?
Yep.
This is incredible. I'm glad you drew that to our attention, Terry. I didn't know.
I didn't even look that far.
French civilians, auto travelers.
Yeah. The milk delivery van.
French civilians.
Yes.
Including father-in-law.
Obviously, there were no women in France at the time.
Yeah. There's Monsignor.
Monsignor Renault, yes.
Oh, I think I have this tank crew kit. Is this new?
No, some of these have been out
new,
for a month or two. Yeah, they've been out for a little bit. Not long though.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You gotta love me here.
Yeah.
Some of these might be just
they could be re-releases.
Yeah. Like the US machine gun set, I believe I've seen before. But I mean, it's just useful stuff, right?
Okay.
Oh man, they're very, very productive.
They are. They do a ton of different stuff. Okay, back to the other one. Also, Trumpeters has the another Ukrainian target, the 148th Mi-17 HIP H helicopter, often used as a target in Ukraine.
Bam.
Yeah. Was this the one that they took that video of that just got shot down and cruised into a field?
Oh, probably a few videos.
There's the one video where 2 of them are shot down, but I don't know what they were.
No. Well, you could always pretend.
Close enough.
Yeah, a lot of different schemes. Indian Air Force in this one. 160 parts, 8 sprues. Canopy from clear parts, photo etched included. Canopy looks nice. At least you got some masking.
Yeah, they've always done a very nice job. Of including the masking kits, right, as like a regular feature or a regular bonus to their sets.
Exactly. All right.
Very nice.
Hobby Boss. 3 Panzers, 3 scales in September. So first off in 148th, the Panzer IV Type F2.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm not a Panzer guy, so I'm sure there's a difference compared to other Panzer IVs.
Yeah, I was going to say, what Panzers are left to get kitted?
Well, designed as an infantry support tank. Was not originally intended to engage enemy armor.
Oh.
But they assumed to do the tank fighting role. 6 sprues, lots of tracks, 250 parts of photo etch. And then 135th, the Jag Panzer 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
It always reminds me of a Jag Panther that's kind of gone in the press, been kind of squished down.
Yeah, a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Like it has a bit of a different profile than kind
of
it does. We're probably most familiar with.
Yeah,
kind of an assault gun sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Decals, 11 sprues, 330 parts, individual tracks, and some photo etch. And then, 1/16th scale. What else do we need in 1/16th? Of course, a Tiger.
Another Tiger.
Tiger one with the early Tiger. There is a difference apparently. So again, this will be a big boy.
Wow. Yeah.
It was the first tank mounting the 88.
Yeah, look at all the screws.
Yeah.
Wow. So listeners, for your reference, this 1/16th scale kit is $201.48 US.
Yeah.
And is available at Hobby Link Japan.
80 parts, or sorry, 800 parts.
8.
80
There's
parts.
more than
80. Sorry.
There's more than 80.
Yeah. 26 screws.
Track links.
Yeah. Rubber and nylon parts included. And some of the parts come bagged individually.
Ooh,
And then,
wow.
of course, as Terry says, the screws to put all
Look
the
at
kits
all the
together.
screws.
Yep.
Lots of
Goodness.
screws. Build your own. Your own tank.
It's like an IKEA project.
Yeah, they're not going to screw you around.
But hey, interestingly,
Waka Waka.
In the write up here about it, there's over 1,000 units built between, it says here, August 42 and August 44. So it was something that was around.
Very popular Tiger.
Yeah.
You know.
So this must be one of the sort of
I'm not
more
surprised
common
this is I'm not surprised this is out in that scale.
Yeah.
116 is proving very popular, as we've seen from Andy's Hobby. They just released those 2 M10s.
Right.
And
you're getting ahead of yourself. You're getting ahead of yourself.
No, I'm just
didn't we talk about it?
We talked about it at the show. Yeah, we had a show.
Oh, it was the pre-show.
The pre-show.
Yeah.
Well, no, and we also talked about it. It was a Nats announcement, so we did talk about it.
I stand corrected.
You stand corrected, as well you should, sir.
As well I should, yes.
All right. So Black Dog, speaking of a company that just keeps throwing out amazing things, more and more of it. Look at all this list here. You got 172nd Centaur tank accessories, Africa House base, a lot of stuff for your Mirages, your Skyhawks, your big Skyhawks. Just tons. The IPG models Centaur tank base with the accessories.
They really kind of remind me of the old Verlinden releases.
Oh yeah, kind of the similar packaging too. A lot of stuff for the A4 Skyhawk.
Similar like subjects, almost like they're covering the same types of accessories that
you can
as the same sort of high quality detail.
And they're just doing some amazing stuff. Like look at the engine and the lighting for the 172nd.
You can open up all the panels for those A7s and A4s and such. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's MI8 engines for the helicopter, which is a nice touch because that one, when they open the panels up, that does look good on the MI8.
That is always a neat. I love seeing airplanes with the panels opened up, like in model kit form. It's always a thrill. It's always so fascinating. Kudos to the builders out there doing that.
A lot of stuff for the Kinetics Mirage 2000 cannons and radar. All sorts of goodies. Of course, the big set combining.
32nd scale U.S. carrier deck crew guys as well.
Yeah.
Where's that? I haven't got that far yet.
All the way down at the bottom.
U.S. Army clothing, British soldier with a pigeon from the First World War. Well, they were used. Why not?
Yes. Yeah, they were used sort of commonly, right?
Yeah. Oh, very good.
Used for snacks.
And number 1 and number 2. So the pigeon's in flight, number 2. And then you can get
pigeons in flight. You're always worried about number 2.
Yeah. Spine electronics for the Skyhawk and 132nd scale. I know he's here all week. Buy the shrimp.
I kill myself.
Well, you're killing us too, but that's another story. Oh, and we got the A7 Corsair from Trumpeter, 132nd. A lot of the magazine and detail upset. Again, if you're going to build in that scale, it makes so much sense.
You're freaking. Your scroll finger must be like Olympic quality musculature.
That's what I trained for. See? And see the mouse. The mouse changes color too. You see, it's
no kidding. Oh my god.
Okay. Sorry. Did you guys mention these deck crew?
No, we're not there. Here we go. Finally got to them. Yeah.
These are great.
Deck crew number 1, deck crew number 2, 32nd scale, and then the combined set. See, I'm not as quick as Anthony. He was already down there, Jeff.
No, I was like scrolling rapidly to try and get there. Are these World War II era? I don't like it. They don't recognize.
They are.
Them.
Yeah, they're World War II.
Okay. I was thinking of I'm most familiar with like modern era stuff.
No, this looks like World War II. Definitely with the pieces.
Very cool. Good stuff. This is the good stuff right here.
Ton of stuff from those guys.
Always good stuff. Okay, our good friends at Special Hobbies, because they update their website frequently, so I like to include them. They're going to release a Super Mystère in 1/48 scale. I know a lot of people like French aircraft. So this is the golden
This plane wins best name of all time.
Oh yeah,
Super
Yep.
Mystère. That's
Yep.
great.
Super Mystère. Ooh.
And the French, they delight in flying ultra low. They still do that today. If you want to have
Yeah,
some
they
fun,
do.
go to YouTube, look up low level French Air Force, and these guys are nuts. I mean, like, yeah,
Wow.
Maverick may buzz the tower, but these guys like buzz the fish.
Wowza.
So yeah,
That's a nice looking plane.
Yep, it is. It's a very nice golden era 5060.
Yep.
It's a French Sabre.
Basically.
Super Sabre.
Yes.
Super
Yeah.
Sabre, yeah.
French Super Sabre.
Yep, they do a nice job. All righty. And then I found this. I had to add this. Green Stuff World. So we get a lot of Green Stuff World through FlexiFile when they come to our shows and that.
Mhm.
They got all sorts of stuff. They now have an UV curing putty. Green Stuff Road UV putty is a specialized one component putty. So the idea is you gap fill it and then you hit it with a UV light.
Cool.
Yeah, you can apply it with a paintbrush or palette knife. Layering capabilities, gap filling, super quick. The curing time depends on the distance from the ultraviolet light source and the thickness of each layer. Using the GSW ultraviolet torch, it can be dried promptly for further processing. Just make sure you close the lid on the rest of it. Just saying.
Right. This is interesting.
Cure with an
Now,
ultralight, 15 seconds.
Does anybody have any experience using this type, like anything UV activated?
No, never have.
I do. Yeah.
Terry does. Yeah.
It's like dental stuff, isn't it?
Similar. And don't think it's that hard, but yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
And did you have a nice video explaining how to use it? Yeah, there's stuff.
Yeah, they also make the liquid UV curing product, and that's really useful for a lot of stuff because it's got a little bit of give to it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what?
So this is like using an epoxy putty where you would do a lot of the work ahead of time and then cure it.
Okay.
Yeah. So you would remove excess. You would do all of that. I wonder how hard it is.
Well, sounds like it does
something to try. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you guys scrolled down just a little bit below all the little emoticons where it has the running sort of script of 4 different ads for different products?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that? What's with the Aussie one?
Oh man, what is that?
It's
modular. It's going by so quickly. Air Force.
Oh, it's the escape pod. Yeah, it just comes with the escape pod. But that's the kangaroo. That's the mascot.
I hope it comes with a kangaroo.
It might.
Because that is an awesome kangaroo.
Okay. That was from ResKit.
Yeah. If you click on it, you can get the opening. So what it is it's 1/32 scale. It's an F111C Pig Escape Pod Crew Module Royal Australian Air Force resin model kit. $119.99.
It's sold out. It does come with the figure.
Wow.
We just need to put. You know what we can do?
I'd get it for the figure.
You know what we have to do for that figure, Jeff? We just have to get some antlers on it. We'll have our Moosaroo.
I'm telling you, it's perfect. It's perfect.
It's sold out though. Sold out.
A ripped roo. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a freakish looking roo. Awesome. That's
Sorry.
Hilarious.
That's okay.
Good resist, guys.
That's all right. That's all right. We forgive you. All right. Next up, Halberd Models. They're going to release the F-35 Goblin in September, 1/32 and 1/48 scale. Terry, this is the kind of thing that would sound like up your alley.
Yeah, the XF-85 Goblin. They've got one at the Air Force Museum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we looked at this, didn't we?
Oh yeah, you can't not look at it.
Yeah, it's so wild.
Look away. Look away.
Yeah, it just. I mean, it flew.
Yeah.
But
did they not drop? They dropped this off a plane, did they not?
Yeah, it was a Parasite.
Yeah, about B-36s.
Yeah.
There have been kits of this before.
Yes.
I think Special Hobby or Czech models produced some, but they're going to do it in 32nd and 48th.
Yeah. So the idea behind this, Anthony, is that they designed this as what was called a parasite fighter. They actually had it slung under a B-36. So the idea was when they went on ultra long missions, if fighter opposition came up, the fighter pilot would drop down into the thing. They'd release it. He'd go do his mission, and he would come back and dock up with the with the B-36 again.
Insanity.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll put a video in the things we've seen.
It was pretty cool, and looks like it's got the stand and everything. So
that's very cool. I do remember Terry, and we were with our friend Neil. We were at the Air Force Museum, and we were looking at this, and it's so small that it seems so deadly.
Yeah.
Very interesting footnote in aviation history.
Yeah,
sure.
And I don't know how I missed this one, but I knew
it was probably
Terry
safer than the what did they call the ones where they were attached at the wings?
Yeah,
to hold on. I forget that.
God, yeah.
Ficons? No, Ficon was something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's probably safer than that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is one I forgot to post, but I figured, Terry, I knew would be all over it. Also from Halberd, the Republic XP-47H pre-orders, 132nd and 148th.
Yeah.
You got one in your.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've pre-ordered it.
Which one did you pre-order? The 48th or the 32nd?
48th. I hope so.
Yep. That's for the Tamiya kit. Yeah, you better. Otherwise, you got to find a 32nd scale trumpeter kit. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. 1 month production time. Yeah. And again, this is from Halbard is in the Ukraine. So they're dealing with all sorts of crap. Yeah, that is just a nice looking aircraft.
Good on them for keeping going.
They keep going. They pick some great subjects.
Yep.
Yeah.
Harry gets a Christmas card from them every year.
I hope so. I have said their casting is immaculate. And I saw someone building one of the Seahawks, and they're taking it a step further and putting all the rivets and all the access panels and everything on it.
Nice.
Cool. Wow.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very cool. Yeah. Then SBS has released a 3D printed Bristol Mercury engine set for the Airfix 172nd scale Bristol Blenheim, the Mark One. I have that.
Aeroscale just they're just keep going. They used to do all photo etch stuff, and now they've moved along.
Yep.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, the Aeroscale is the website. Sorry, right. I got mixed up between the old company, but yeah, this is SBS.
SBS, but just gorgeous.
Absolutely really nice.
Gorgeous. Yeah, and bear in mind, this is 172nd scale.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, that is very impressive.
They have a lot of different scale stuff, right?
Euros, so 16 euros you can get it for. Yeah, they have a lot of cool things.
Yeah, it's a rabbit hole there. Everything from all the stuff for the interior, the bombardier gunner section of a B-17G to, just seats and everything. It's amazing work.
I don't remember if it was them or someone else, but they did the Merlin engine conversion for the Beaufighter in 72nd. And I've got two Beaufighter 72nd kits, and that would be very interesting to try. It's on my wish list one day. But anyway, yeah, that's nice. And that's a very good, highly rated kit, that Airfix Blenheim. A lot of people waited for that. And that looks very, very nice. Okay, let's go over to ScaleMate, see what's new. So we do full kits, new tool only. It is August the 7th today. We have the Lancelot drone from IAGM scale models in 1/35th scale.
The Lancet? Yeah.
Yak 15 feather in 3 different scales. Ultraman from Bandai Spirits. He's pretty popular in Japan, isn't he, Anthony?
Yeah, Ultraman's been around for a long time. I think it maybe started out in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. And there's a new series. So this is based on the new series.
Yeah, there's been a lot of various TV shows and movies and whatnot, and they've all sort of had figure model kits accompanying them. So yeah, Ultraman Z, that must be a new thing. So Bandai Spirits is basically it's
like their limited edition kind of.
I thought the whole company, anything model related now, is Bandai Spirits.
Huh.
Like under that. yeah, like how they have Bondi Visual is the sort of animation production.
Interesting.
They did a
Yeah.
reorg a couple of months ago. Yes.
That yeah, actually, it might have been a year or two ago because but yeah, it used to be that Bondi would sort of partner up with Sunrise, and Sunrise was the animation studio, and it was a very big one that had a lot of money and a lot of production capability. But at one point, Bondi bought Sunrise, and so it became Bondi Visuals, and that was the producer, right? Because it was always that the Bondi was the one putting up the money
Right.
for as the toy
Right.
sponsor, kind of, right?
Yeah.
For these productions, but they just got so big, and Bondi took on Gundam kind of as their flagship model kit line because they used to do everything. I remember seeing in the 70s, I think 76 scale, like World War II armor from Bondi. Like there's some vintage kits out there from that. They used to do a bit more stuff, but
yeah.
And they still do. They still do cover a whole bunch of different like character franchises and like other vehicles and whatnot. But just Gundam's just taken off in such popularity. But yeah, so Bondi Spirits, I believe, is the sort of model kit part of the organization.
Cool. And then we have from Model Factory Hero, the Honda RA301, 68 British Grand Prix and French Grand Prix. With and without the spoiler. I know that'll get Jeff drooling.
Oh my God, this is a second mortgage waiting to happen.
Yeah, no kidding.
How much is that gonna cost?
A lot.
Yes, ballpark. Is it gonna be $200 plus?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Multiply it by a few.
Really? Is it a $500 model kit?
At least. Hang on. Let me find it on the website.
Let me see.
112 scale, full detail. That's if they even have it yet.
No, yeah. But the Model Factory Hero 112 scale kits are astronomically expensive.
82,000 yen for a Lotus Type 88.
Okay, so that's about $800.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, these things are the top dot. Like if you wanted to build the best model car,
this is the wooden sailing ship of the car world.
This would be what you'd get.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Now, we did forget one. I noticed they're on here is Model Factory. They did release their 1/700 scale, the brand new CBN 78, the USS Gerald Ford. So this is the brand new Ford class U.S. aircraft carrier in the big 1/700 scale.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, but you skipped right past the 1969 Pontiac Grand Prix.
I know, but I wanted to point out I had it actually in the new stuff, but I missed it.
I know.
So now we'll go back to the Grand Prix to keep you happy. Okay.
You're just sort of to go on the opposite side of the scale from the Honda.
I gotta keep you on your toes. Got to keep you on your toes.
It's a 3D print, so
yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So from August the 4th, yep.
My father-in-law had one of these. Used to take my girlfriend on dates, my wife on dates in one of these things. Didn't have the best front seats. I'm just saying.
Good catch.
So you'd have to use the back seats. What can you say? The 6. Yeah, I wonder. And enough hood there to like plant an acreage.
Oh, no kidding! It was ridiculous.
Enough trunk space for a couple of bodies. Okay.
You camp in the engine bay.
Yeah, no kidding. It reminds me of I first learned to drive on a '73 Monte Carlo. Same thing. Yeah,
same
thing was huge. Yeah. Okay, then we have August 3rd. We've covered the M10. Oh, this was another one. Daswerk announced this at NATS, the 8.8 centimeter Flock OMF 9T Veomag. So it's like another anti-aircraft gun. I've never seen anyone do it before, but
it's
a flak on a Vomag truck.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool though.
Brand new tool. What else here? What's this? Mari Illustrious from Plan Max. Is she from a show, Anthony?
Evangelion. That's from Evangelion.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
She's in Barbie Pink. I thought maybe,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't recognize this, but it does look like that.
All right. The Mitsubishi MU300 Diamond. A little corporate aircraft.
That's nice.
That's cool.
Soviet tactical Scud B tactical ballistic missile.
4D models, 1/72 scale.
I'm just scanning through this, and I feel like it's been a while since I've looked at it. and there's way more sci-fi represented.
Oh
in
yeah, they're
just
putting
the
a lot more
generic
out.
and fantasy stuff. Like I'm seeing things from like Harry Potter.
Yep.
Which
They're
is
putting a lot more.
interesting.
Again, it's up to the
Yeah, it's really
manufacturers, the people to add
diversified.
stuff to the database. How about this from August 2nd, the from Bandai Spirits, the Providel Type Rex 01J?
Yeah, it's one of the
yeah.
30-minute mission series. There's
Yeah.
a lot of those.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I think that is there's no specific like animation work to support it. It's just like a
No.
series of model kits. Is
Cool.
that right?
I think so, yeah.
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 And it's kind of they're meant to be quick. They're meant to be like really customizable. Like you can you can swap parts out quite easily and kind of make your own sort of mecha,
Yep.
you know, creation kind of thing. Yeah.
Well,
they're neat. I've
they
never
are.
really
Yeah.
come across one in person, but I think they're quite popular.
They have a die-cast Mercedes-Benz 1/8 by Sterling Moss, 1955, but it's die-cast. You have a dump truck.
That's interesting that it made it on here.
Yeah, but again, I guess they're putting them on.
Like it's not a kit that you would assemble, the die-cast sort of body.
Yeah. Oh, how about this one from July 28th? The R149 MA1 Destroyed.
Destroyed is good. Yeah.
It comes in destroyed format. It's a BTR basically. Yeah, probably.
Where are you?
Again.
Oh.
Yeah, a little bit further down. Probably done by a Ukrainian company.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen pictures of the real thing, and they're burned out. All the rubber on the wheels is burned off, just like this. So that's probably what they're trying to reproduce.
Yeah, and I think we've pretty well gone down to where we were last time. So that's all the what's new. As Anthony says, a lot of sci-fi.
There is another 200 scale ship there for you on July 31st, Jeff.
What was that?
Japanese tank landing ship in one 200 scale.
It said paper model though, so I'm wondering.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the manufacturer said paper model, so I'm not sure.
Like
Cardboard Samurai. Yeah.
Bit of a giveaway. There.
Interesting.
Looking down a bit further, and you can see there's that Titan again.
Yeah, and did you see Trumpeter did Transformers Bumblebee Starscream? So they've got that license. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. That might be their first like
trumpet.
science fiction or like a licensed
subject.
Trumpeter?
I'm not sure, but you might be right.
Yeah,
it's my guess. I don't really know. But Transformers.
Well, it is kind of a. I mean, if they're going to go big, they're going for a classic. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's kind. Isn't there a new film coming out too?
Yeah, that's the new one. Yeah,
popular subject.
Yeah, that's cool. Very neat.
Very
a lot
cool.
of fun.
All sorts of new stuff to separate us from our wallets. Not that we have enough to do already. Okay, another awesome guy was a lot of awesome sci-fi guy stuff is our buddy Steve from Cult TV Man, and let's see what's new from them. Let's talk about all the latest goodies coming soon from Cult TV Man and CultTVManshop.com. A lot of pre-order information this week, all sorts of sci-fi subjects, etc. So we've got to start the USS Cerritos from Lower Decks. I hope all of you watched that crossover episode. This is a pre-order, price to be announced, but it looks like it's going to be good. Also, the USS Enterprise, Strange New Worlds. This one's 1/1000 scale. I didn't have a scale for the Cerritos. That's also a TBA, and the 2023 reissue of the Klingon Battle Cruiser in the classic 1/650th scale is on pre-order. There's also Enterprise D, the 1/1400 scale. This is the 2023 reissue. Both the Starship and the Aztec decals you can pre-order now. And then, of course, the Cronus 2, Cronus 1, the 1/350th scale Klingon battlecruiser of the Emperor from Star Trek VI. It is now available. So the main kit was $126.99. Beautiful detail on that. I had a look at that a while ago. Just absolutely gorgeous. And also the Cronus 1 light kit is available as well. That is $64.99. The photo etch kit is coming soon. Steve says he hopes to get it really, really soon, so definitely check that out. And then as well, we have The Witch from Doll & Hobby. $41.99 as a pre-order. That looks good, a classic kit. And of course, we've talked about this before, the 1/72nd scale Millennium Falcon from round 2 with some updated parts. That's available for $69.99. So definitely check those out. Cult TV Man will be at the IPMS Huntsville, Alabama show on August 26, 2023. So make sure you check them out there. And as always, when ordering, mention the Scale Model Podcast sent you. All right, we're back. What's on the bench? So now that I know what the Moosaroo Cup is, I can plan on what to do with it. I haven't decided yet, as I was saying before. A lot of interesting ideas. I have been working on the Star Wars TIE Fighter. I got the light purple metallic on it. It looks really good. But then I was moving that over on the paint stick it was on, and then I heard a sound, which was the center cockpit fall between the my spray booth table and my regular table. Heard it bounce on the floor, but it's promptly gone through a Stargate. So it's down there somewhere, but I have to get down and look for it. So that's been kind of put on hold for a few minutes. And then what else do we have? We also have the Hayabusa probe. We did the painting. I've done the painting of the solar panels in the main body in metallics. Now I got to do a lot of masking. There's a lot of like different colored squares on various parts of the kit. And I'm going to go cross-eyed, I swear, doing this.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
I suppose. Yeah. It will be when it will be when it's done. But yeah, I just got to play catch up on that. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to be doing that. That's about what's happening there. Jeff, you're up next.
Yeah, I have not obviously been focused on things other than the bench, but every now and again, at least once a day, I'll come downstairs and I'll load up the airbrush with some Tamiya white primer, and I'll spray another coat on this beast, the Savoia Marchetti S55 X, and it's taking forever. White takes forever to cover.
Yes,
but slowly but surely I'm getting there, and I have decided, like I've been wrestling with what color scheme to do this in. It was originally the Balbo Silver World Tour kit, but I don't have the decals for it. And then I thought I'd do the red one. The only one that's surviving in the world is in South America.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a burgundy red, and I thought that would look sharp, so I might do that. And then I was just flipping through my art book of the Studio Ghibli film Porco Rosso, and I saw that these were in it, and so I pulled that up, found them, and decided I'm going to do a Porco Rosso colors.
Excellent.
There we go.
There you go.
Excellent.
So that should be fun, and it'll be, I mean, this is not going to be a contest. In a contest at any given time, but I'll probably do a little diorama with this and the Porco Rosso plane and the Curtis, all the same scale together.
Cool.
Sort of doing.
Were those ones in red? What were those in?
No, it was white underneath, red under the hull, and green on the top of the wings.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's the plan. Yeah, so that should be fun. Looking forward to playing around with that. But at least I have a plan. That was what was bugging me. It was slowing me down. I don't know if you're building a kit because you like the kit, but you haven't quite sorted out in your mind what you want to do with the color scheme yet.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the path I was going down. Had to make a call.
That's me with the truck. That's me with the Moosaroo Cup right now, kind of figuring out what I'm going to do with it. So
I'm telling you, pink
I
is
know,
the color.
that might be an idea. I might have to suggest that to my wife. You know what she'll say to that? She'll like that idea.
You'll be all over it. All over it.
All I need now is 1/72nd sheep to go with it and make it like the yarn delivery.
And guess what you have?
I have 1/35th sheep, but I'm sure I can 3D print. I can 3D print. No words.
They're just big sheep.
They're just big sheep. Yeah, we'll figure
sheep.
it out. I'll run that by her tonight. We'll see what she says. Okay, Mr. Terry, you've got your first subject seems rather unusual.
Oh, yeah. Keep working on those 1-to-1 scale Husky Maniacs. They're good. Summertime,
awesome.
Like I said, modeling kind of grinds to a halt a bit. I am I'm working on stuff, but I want to work on other stuff, but I know I shouldn't start that other stuff because it'll just be yet more one more unfinished project.
But you know what? My wife appreciates you posting the pictures, especially.
Yeah, I sent another one you can throw in here.
Yep.
Yeah, they're good little guys, and the other ones are getting along well with them.
And your wife hasn't decided to get another one. You're not planning any more business trips?
Oh, Jesus. No. Well, I am traveling this week, so.
Oh, dear. Okay. We'll keep our fingers crossed for you.
So that means she has to get up at 4:00.
Ah, yes.
Which will be a disincentive.
There you go.
Yeah, I guess the bladder just lasts till 4:00, and then occasionally I can sleep again till 6, but sometimes he's awake.
My kitties wake me up at 5 for breakfast. So.
And that's a little Toshi.
Yeah.
Yeah, but cats, you feed them and you can go back to bed.
I know.
These two.
Yeah, I know.
They wake up and they start banging around the house.
Ready to go.
Hopping on, just chasing each other around. And
well, they got to learn, right? Toshi's got to learn.
Yeah.
All right. What else you doing? You're setting up a new workstation?
I was so frustrated with this old box that it constantly had USB issues, and I tried a whole bunch of different stuff. So it was getting old anyway, so I just bought one. Excellent. Usually I like to build them.
Yeah.
I just bought a workstation from Dell, and
I do that.
It's
now.
really it's really nice.
Good.
They open it up to put in some more drives and stuff to bring the stuff over from the old rig, and it's quality build.
Yeah.
They don't mess around.
Are you on Windows 11?
Oh yeah.
It's very nice. Windows 11, I will recommend it. So,
and it's set up as a workstation, so I can do my photos and all that. It's not really, I don't need another game rig. I'm already gaming too much as it is.
Oh, I know. Me too. I got to admit. All righty, Mr. Anthony Goodman.
Oh, that's cool. I'm just looking
at. Jeff just posted.
Yeah,
looks good.
Photo. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
The Marchetti. Yeah, looks great.
Yeah, it's such a weird plane. I love it.
Yeah, all that Italian stuff is so interesting looking, right? Like they're just trying to figure out what they can do with
design.
it.
Yeah.
Let's make a flying Ferrari.
Yeah, they had a really interesting design method, I think.
Yep.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I've been working on surprise, more Gundams.
I'm shocked. I say shocked.
Oh my god.
I don't know why I just have so many of them. It's standing in the way of my Macross builds, really. I've been working on another Shelf Queen project, bringing it closer. One that I had done a bunch of work to. So it's the GPO3 from Stardust Memories, and I've had that kit for like 20 years, and just about finished it.
Very good.
And I'm prepping another oldie but goodie that I actually bought when I was in Japan. The Gundam Hazel. So it's getting that one ready for paint.
Nice.
And another interesting project that kind of popped up in my lap was something for a fellow club member. He needed to reproduce the Lancaster front nose blister. And he had actually, I think, Jeff, you put me in touch with Pablo. And
well, he hooked up with me because I'm the secretary and I have everybody's emails. And of course, I had 2 email addresses for you, and for the longest time, he had the wrong one, so that's why he couldn't connect up with you.
Yeah, and I think I'd answered him and said, give me a call at this number or whatever. I'll for sure we'll take a look at it. And then I think he was emailing me and not. But anyway, we finally got in contact. He came by, and I'll show you guys real quickly what I'm working on here. But I couldn't catch the full story. But he needed to make his own canopy for the front nose, which is all glass, which is and it has a little frame in it. He had like a homemade vac machine. The buck needed some work, and luckily I just kind of plateaued on vac forming canopies with my little cat's eye Macross project. So and having gone to just recently a great seminar on vac forming at Wonderfest, that kind of I was able to fill in the missing pieces of my process. So I was able to we fixed up his buck a little bit. He kind of had a piece of frame. It was a little rough. It wasn't quite round, so we cut a new one using the Shadow thinner line cutter.
Nice.
So it is in fact a circle, right? And then I worked on getting his mold with a little bit of height and a just a little bit of undercut to show you where to cut it off, but not so much that's going to get in the way. And we did end up making a one copy. We were kind of just playing with his buck at the moment that he brought it over, and we pulled something, but it was a little sticky. But he took it home and played with it anyway and said it was good. But then I decided, you know what, we might as well make that circular frame a bit better. And he sent me a picture with where the rivets are, so I think I might attempt to do the rivets on the frame while I'm kind of it's interesting. So we're gonna just this kind of neat stuff like that where you start to dig out tools and you start to kind of go a little deeper. They're neat projects that come up like that once in a while.
Yeah, we got to get you to try a female mold sometime for these.
Yeah,
so then you can really do the rivet detail.
Cool. I would love to try that.
Yeah.
The bit of the backstory on that Pablo build. This kit that I'm building, this Savoia Marchetti, and like the Avro car and all these other, these are previously built kits, built by a deceased member of 427 Wing out at the London Airport, which is RCAF, social club, and Pablo bought the Tamiya 148 Lancaster that had been built, and then he stripped it, took all the parts off it, but it was missing that front nose blister.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah, so that's what and when he was talking about how to do it, your name came up as being the god of that form.
I'm just an amateur. I'm just figuring it out, so I'm really happy I got another thing to practice on. But it's neat, I have plans for a 50s Canadian, the SAR Lancaster. So nice. I whipped it out and I was just holding this buck that Pablo made. Basically, they're not the same scale, but I was able to hold it up and he actually really nailed the shape and the angle. So it's sort of like a round dome with like a flat spot that's pointed downwards, right? Mm-hmm. So it was neat to whip that out and kind of as a bit of source material and say, you know what, you did a pretty good job, Pablo. It looks like it should. So I think he didn't have any experience with the vac forming, and I think he was treading some of the same steps I had. Like I originally had a homemade vac former that didn't work. Surprise, surprise, right? Couldn't get it to do anything, and then I ended up investing in like one of those dental former machines that model makers love so much. And I was explaining to him that I bought a full 4x8 sheet of like virgin plastic for thermoforming from a plastic supplier, and it took me a few hours, but I cut the entire thing into 5-inch by 5-inch squares because that's what it takes.
Yeah,
you have to use the whole thing, and that was like that took me a while to do that. But now I have this. It's a stack about, I would say, about 10 inches tall, and boy oh boy did I burn through those when I was trying to do the cat's eye, because I was trying to figure out the timing. And those bucks weren't set up properly. Then I go to Wonderfest. I figure out I need to shape it differently. I need to put vents in it. I ended up taking the two separate canopies, merging them together to be a bit more, instead of wasting two sheets at a time. And then starting to figure out the timing for the heat, and it was sort of coming together. So he really caught me at the right time, where I was like, I think I can actually do a good job at this.
almost sounds like we need Anthony to do a demo at one of our IPMS London meetings one night, Jeff.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
I'd love that. I'd be up for that.
And just seeing, that's the value of these demos, and BP overperformed on that. He brought a lot of stuff with him. Yep. And seeing how it was, and letting people know how to make your masters actually work in that. And I'm like, oh, of course that works. As soon as you see it, your brain goes, well, of course that's how it needs to be done.
Exactly.
Yeah,
until you see it, you don't. It doesn't register.
I have to give a lot of credit to that little seminar. There must have been 10 guys there, all around the table, and
more like 20 or 25, I think. Right.
And BP had a variety of had a variety of things out there, and he was showing people. And he had a little jet canopy mold, and I just instantly picked up. I was like, "Oh, wait, this is what my thing should look like." They were, I realized right away the buck design was really making a problem for me. and then he was
You gotta
talking
have
about
that undercut. You gotta have that
yeah,
yeah.
the undercut was killing me, and I just was using it as was provided to me.
And for the for the listeners, the undercut's necessary because if you just have a vertical interface there, plastic, as you know, it'll just make a curve.
Yeah.
So it'll never get down to that level you want. So you have an undercut, it kind of goes under, and then the curve goes, and you almost have then a flat point where you can make your cut around, and that's exactly where the piece needs to be. You'll need to sand a little bit, but as soon as you see how that works, it's completely logical.
But the undercut has to be the real, it's a subtle undercut. That's what I had I couldn't get the pieces off the buck, and I was just destroying them, and until I realized how fine that I needed to make that undercut. So you can basically see the very bottom of the frame of the canopy, right? But it's just a little bit, and you're gonna sand that piece to fit it anyway. So you're gonna reintroduce that sharpness, right? So
it's what, a little thicker than the actual plastic.
Yeah.
So like a millimeter.
Yes.
Or maybe 2. Yeah.
No, a millimeter for sure.
Interesting.
So that's what I did with I'll post for the listeners. I will post a picture of the refurbished buck.
Yeah.
And I think he had put it up really high. He was using like a Lego piece to underneath, and it was just too much, right? So you're ending up with like too much stretch at the top of the dome, and so some interesting things, right? I learned just through trial and error. I need to get that thing. My Valkyrie buck, I got it almost as low as I could to the actual model part to the bottom of the frame. But yeah, we can definitely talk about that in more depth sometime. Cool. If we haven't covered it all now.
Okay. All right, let's move on to our news section. What we're reading. I finished that one of the history of the Telegraph. I'm now reading one. I've been heard about this one for a while. It's kind of a funny, true one, but it's Confessions of a Bookseller by Sean Blytheville. He's actually a bookstore owner in a tourist town in the north of England, and he's written a couple. So he has a used bookstore, and it's kind of a daily diary. And I used to work in a bookstore for many years. I absolutely loved it in my college years. So, all the various customers and the characters. If you've got a regular bookstore you go to, and the owner, and you know what, this can apply to also hobby stores. A lot of these stores. So a good read, about 2/3 of the way through. And then I'm starting a new nonfiction one. It's called Hyperfocus by Chris Bailey. And I had to put this in. I started this a while back, but lost focus. I know. No, I know. I know. With a lot of people have recommended this to me. So yeah, because basically with all that's happened the last few years, I do have a lot of trouble sometimes keeping focus on things, and getting motivated. And this is I've just started it. It's fairly good so far, but I've read very good reviews, including from a few friends of mine who really says there's some good stuff in there. So going to be trying that. Mr. Jeff.
Yeah, well, I finally finished that Over the Edge of the World book about the Around the World voyage by Magellan, which was a great read. I learned a lot that I didn't know about it, and other than, as I said before, I realized I would have not survived that voyage. Like 80% of the crew of that voyage didn't survive.
Wow.
But man, there's a lot of sex and violence in that story. I mean, it's a great movie if you were just waiting to be made, but pretty nasty times. I'm looking for another book to read. What I have been doing lately, because it's been so frickin' buggy here because of all the humidity, is that I've been making puzzles. I just open a puzzle. It's a crappy day.
Oh boy.
Do a puzzle, and then I don't really feel my brain needs to work too much. But I really need a book. I gotta find a good book to read. So I might go into one of these, one of the ones that Terry's reading now. By that, that's it.
All right.
Well, I got stuff I can send you.
Okay, Terry.
Yeah, I'm moving along with Clean Sweep. It's a big book, and I'm reading at lunchtime, so 30, 40 pages. The fighters are now over Berlin, so that writing's been on the wall for a while. But I'm amazed at how buggy the Mustangs still were at that point.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. These were still the Bs, and eventually the Cs were coming over.
Yeah.
The ammunition jam because of that weird interface. So eventually they motorized the ammunition tracks to force feed the guns.
Yep. Yep.
But that hasn't happened yet. And even the P-47s were that way. So it'd be like, so and so was down to one gun on his P-47. It's like, well, what's the point of a P-47?
Wow.
But yeah. So it's fascinating, and I'm only at like 60% of the book, so
yeah, I gotta get
a lot more
read.
going on. I did pick up Michael Moorcock's Elric trilogy on Kindle, so I've been wanting a big read, and I think this is going to be a nice big read. I'll be doing some traveling, and it's something to remember. And it was in the foreword by Neil Gaiman wrote the foreword on the first one. And he's like, remember, these books were written in the 60s. A lot of stuff. He borrowed a lot of stuff from Tolkien and some others, but then everyone else borrowed a lot of stuff from him. And it just kind of, it built its own genre. But this was toward the early section of this genre.
Anytime anyone asks me about fantasy to read, it's in my top 10.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Blue Oyster Cult fan too, so Michael Moorcock did a lot of stuff with those guys.
Oh, there you go. Exactly. Okay, Anthony.
Well, I'm not really reading much right now. I've been reading I'm reading a book on dealing with children's behavior and some GI Joe comic books.
I thought your children were actually perfect. You told me.
Oh, they are. I'm the kid that needs the.
Oh, okay.
My kids are awesome. And then, but I've got to say, I am starting to foam at the mouth a little bit for Luftram 72.
Yes.
New super detailing F-14 book.
Yep.
Or MOOC. I think it's more of a magazine book combo, but that thing looks amazing. I'm trying not to look too much. Like some people have gotten it and they're like, they've got pictures of all the spreads, and I'm just going right by it because I'm like, I'm just gonna crack into this thing. And coincidentally, I got myself one of the Tamiya 48 scale. Nice. I got the A-type, the carrier launch A-type from our local hobby shop, Roughdale. So boy, oh boy, isn't that going to work out nicely?
Well, he's sending me a copy too, so you and I will have to do a segment where we review it. We're also going to get him on the show. We're going to get him on the podcast for an interview as part of his worldwide marketing tour.
Yeah, he's just I love his type of modeling, and I like his approach.
And he's a great guy
to talk to. He's got a really interesting eye for detail, and he's got a really neat approach to doing his model work. It's good. I think that book is gonna blow my mind. I'm sure of it.
I think you'll be good. Okay, speaking of also blowing our minds, all the goodies from Sean's Custom Model Tools. So let's quickly talk about that. Now we're going to talk a bit about Sean's Custom Model Tools, one of our other sponsors of the Scale Model Podcast. Some very cool things, both 3D printed and the Goodman Super Sanding Blocks. Let's start with the Microset and Microsole decal set bottle stand. This is purposely designed for the microscale set and sole. Most modelers over the years, they've tipped these bottles over. So this is a very handy thing. At $14.95, you can put them both together. They're printed in blue and red for easy identification. Comes with a black base, and they actually have little magnets on it, so it helps keeps them in place. Definitely a good deal. I use mine all the time, and I can well recommend them. Let's talk a bit about those Goodman Model Super Sanding Blocks, namely the Value Pack Combo for $28.99. You get the 80 grit, 180 grit, 220, 320, 400, and 600. Just an amazing set, just what you need. And you can also, if you want, you can also get a super sanding block stand for it, which also really makes life a little bit easier, helps things keep it organized. The other thing too is they have the awesome model tape dispenser for your various tapes. It's basically a 3D printed thing. You put spools of your tapes. It's got a little razor blade to help cut it, and it's Really, really good design. So yeah, works out really well, and yours for $19.95. So check out these and other amazing deals at Sean'sCustomModelTools.com, and also on Facebook, and tell them that the Scale Model Podcast sent you. All right, now we're back. Anthony's got his part 2 of his interview with Rod Booth of IPMS USA. Anthony, give us a quick intro.
Yeah. So Rob Booth is a busy guy. If he wasn't talking to people, via Facebook and trying to get feedback on the direction of the organization, he was putting out fires from earlier a month ago or so, as you all remember. But he was preparing for NATS, and I had the pleasure of talking with him as he was doing those things. And boy, oh boy, he was such a nice guy. We had a really interesting conversation, and I hope it's not too nuts and boltsies for nuts and bolty. So I'm gonna coin that, but because we're really talking about an organization that's been around for a long time, has a huge impact on the hobby of scale modeling, and it seems like it's really at a crossroads. So they know that, and I think it's got a lot of new blood. We know a lot of great people on that executive, so it was very interesting to hear kind of where they really want to take it, and especially as a sci-fi guy, I didn't want to be too hard on him because I think he's already been pounded on by the general, the keyboard warriors and whatnot. But I think they really do care about the state of the hobby and more importantly, state of the community, right? And that's the thing they're trying to tap into and maybe serve a bit better. So I was quite interesting to hear what they had to say, and I hope you do as well.
Okay, here we go.
Welcome to SMP's Model Insider with your humble host, Anthony Goodman. Let's dive behind the scenes with special guests from all aspects of the scale model world. Let's find out what's going on. Okay, welcome again, listeners, to part 2 of the interview with Rob Booth, Secretary of IPMS USA. We were digging deep into some of the dirt, right? Some of the crusts, what's been happening recently. There's a lot going on, and we certainly got into it, and there's tons more that we want to sort of pick apart here and kind of see what direction the organization is going to be heading into. And obviously, listeners, you've heard about the awesome prize of a complimentary annual membership to IPMS USA provided by Rob for us. So it's a really cool prize. You've heard about that earlier in the program, and we're looking forward to seeing your whips, and you will be able to take your models to the national convention. So I want to thank Rob for that. And Rob, welcome back to the show. How are you this evening?
Thanks. Howdy. Good to be back.
Excellent. Yes. So there's this guy I know, he's always talking about what's your plan to fix that? I think you know him. He serves on the board with you. Good Dave, Kentucky Dave, providing us a nice little piece of wisdom. So let's get back to what we were talking about. We were looking at the new initiatives that the executive has kind of come up with to kind of relaunch yourselves and to steer yourselves in the right direction for the membership. So yeah, give us a little insight into what you've been working on.
Right. Well, the e-board, when we got elected in 2021, our first order of business was to be sure that this e-board was fully transparent to the membership. Mm-hmm. And we've been focused on that ever since we came into office. We went through the effort to put a lot of time and thought into revising some of the things that are in the IPMS USA Constitution and bylaws. Mm-hmm. We ended up doing that. We did an e-board committee to start with, and then we had put that out to the membership to look at, and we got a lot of feedback on that. While we formed a subcommittee from the society and some past e-board members to take a look at what we had done on our first draft, and we spent about 2 or 3 months going back and forth and cleaning all that up. And so what you got to look at now to vote on is the result of about 20 people looking at that and
Okay.
coming up with these amendments that will give us some more structure and help us to sort of divide and conquer on some of these initiatives we want to push forth with.
Right on.
And so a lot of what I'm about to tell you is stuff that that I came up with. This hasn't gone through a formal vote by the board or anything, but it'll be coming through here pretty soon.
Okay, so this is hot off the presses.
Sure. Well, what we did was we John Bonani and I both monitored Facebook real closely
Mhm.
in the aftermath of Dave's editorial coming out, and we tried to focus on some of the positive feedback that came out of that and some of the suggestions that people were making, because it came up that there were some pretty pointed commentary about the relevance of IPMS in the greater hobby these days and
Mhm.
where we stand with things. And so we tried to follow the positive feedback on that. So between John and myself and a couple other people, we came up with some things that the e-board will be looking at moving forward into this next term after the nationals this summer.
Mhm.
So, we're going to make a commitment to revisit, reestablish, and reinforce the value package that comes in an IPMS membership.
Okay.
And that package is going to be subject to a continuous improvement all the time based on feedback from the membership. So we're asking those people in IPMS to get a hold of us and tell us what they want. How can we help you become a better model? That's kind of going to be the number one focus.
How do members reach out? What are you expecting? What's that mode of communication? Just Facebook or emails or?
Through any of those channels, but to be direct, send it straight to me at ipmssec@ipmsusa.org. That email goes straight to me into a log that I keep to bring before the board at the next board meeting.
Yeah, take note, listeners. There's your chance to get your voice heard. Excellent.
Absolutely. And of course, there's always the IPMS Facebook groups. IPMS USA has a Facebook group. Most of the regions have their own pages and groups. So eventually, all that stuff can get filtered back to us, and we'll take a look at it. Along with that, we want to develop and maintain a positive and engaging message to welcome modelers of all ages and subject matter to participate in everything that IPMS has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just now, but that's into the future as well.
Mm-hmm.
We're making a conscious effort to reach out underrepresented modeling genres and encourage their active participation and have a role in the future of IPMS USA. So we talked a little bit about the science fiction and Gundam folks that are underrepresented right now in the society. We're listening and we want to hear from you. We're going to be encouraging collaboration with the other international branches of IPMS and other hobby organizations to promote and spread this consistent, welcoming message to other scale modelers around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be reaching out to the guys in the UK, Australia, and Mexico and Canada, especially here in the States, to try to work together. I know there'll be a lot of folks from Canada, a lot of folks from Mexico coming to the convention this summer. And of course, we're welcoming them and want to engage with them about how IPMS works in Canada and how IPMS works in Mexico. And I know that the guys in the UK have talked to us a couple of times, and we'll be doing some collaboration over the next year or two on where the direction of the society is headed.
Nice.
There might even be some new potential rebranding to coincide with this new message. It's not the International Plane Modelers Society anymore. Plastic is just one of the many things that make up our hobby medium. So, there could potentially be an international scale modeler society come out of it.
That does
with
make
some
sense.
rebranding. So,
Rob, let me tell you, when I was at Wonderfest, I saw this fellow wearing a funny shirt. It said IPMS on it in big letters, and then beside it it was all broken out and it said, "I prefer making spaceships."
that's pretty good. I like that.
And I had a pretty big chuckle. So yeah, that's I don't want to say older, but he was older than me.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you got your work cut out for you, but obviously you're on the right track here, I think, with in terms of the messaging you want to get and the new direction of the board.
Right. I think the biggest thing that we can say from the leadership of IPMS is we recognize that there are some perception problems.
Yeah.
Both inside, but more particularly outside of the society. And I can tell you that the vast majority of the membership of IPMS doesn't fall into that.
Oh, absolutely.
What we affectionately refer to as the old guard within IPMS.
Yeah.
And again, we got to respect those guys from whence we came. We wouldn't be where we are today without them. And it's just that I think the majority of the membership realizes that, it's time to move on and try to keep up with the hobby and become more relevant than we have been in the past.
So it's more of an evolution, right?
Exactly.
Things are
exactly
shifting. Can I ask you about the how can I phrase this? When the 3D technology was just emerging, let's say about 5 years ago, right? And there's like, well, is it cheating? And is that something that you have noticed today that there's a lot of pushback on, or is that people are adopting it from your vantage point?
I think that the way, if you're talking about it from a contest standpoint and how we look at it at the contest, that's very much new technology as far as the contest is concerned. That's only really been around for the last year or two, in enough volume to come into the contest and be something that we got to start looking at.
Yeah.
And so I think that the way that the NCC currently looks at 3D printed models is it's no different than any other model. It's the end result and the final product that you put on the table that's being judged. And there's been some discussion and quite frankly some arguments I've seen go on in social media from one side or the other about is a 3D printed model that is produced from a CAD file that the modeler themselves produced, doesn't that qualify as a scratch built model and be entered into the scratch built category? Realistically, when you're sitting there trying to judge on a Friday night at the Nationals, it's difficult to confirm or verify that that's the way that this particular model was produced. And it's a big burden on the contestant to have to show, here's some samples of my CAD drawings and here's what I did and this and that.
It's kind of nebulous.
And I think that the at least the prevailing thought from the judges at this point is that, okay, so you put that together in a 3D CAD rendering and then you produced it. And in theory, I can see somebody making a case to say, well, I scratch built this thing on the computer and then printed it out. But I think that the NCC is still saying that in order for it to be a scratch built entry, that you have to manufacture each part that you've put into the model basically by hand.
Yes.
So you've sort of sculpted it in raw materials rather than perfecting it on the computer before you put it together in its final form. And again, I'm not privy to those conversations in the NCC, so I don't want to put words in their mouth. But I think the prevailing thought is that whatever it is that you put on the table as a entry is the final product of your modeling process.
Mhm.
And it's judged as a model the same way that something that is produced from a kit and put together, assembled, painted, and finished in the what you would say is the typical manner.
Right.
And then there are those models that you can now buy, both as a completed kit, or not a completed kit, but as a kit of 3D produced parts that you can assemble and
Yes.
put together.
Yeah.
Which, again, where are the lines that you cross in trying to define all that stuff? So I know the NCC will be working on that over the next couple of years, because
Mhm.
we're going to see more and more 3D produced models on the table.
Oh, definitely. But like it's obviously more. We'll have to see what comes out of the contest committee's discussions and hope they can come up with a guide. To me, it's more impressive to if you were to actually design something yourself, right? Take measurements and whip up something and then print it, and then make a unique conversion of something, for example, or a completely 3D printed kit that is not
Right.
something you can just purchase, is more impressive than just like buying a file and then printing it out. And to
Sure.
me, it's the equivalent of buying aftermarket resin, right? I'm
Sure.
gonna fix the cockpit on my plane. There is no version of this. I'm gonna just draw it up in CAD. To me, that particular modeler has all of the creative force going into that, right? It's like
Right.
Paul Budzig making stuff on his lathe.
Exactly.
It's just a digital one.
Well, look, if you wanted to make a comparison, I would say if you took a look at Steve Hustad's best of show aircraft from last year in Omaha,
Mhm.
that he produced literally from scratch, from styrene and typical plastic modeling materials,
Mhm.
where he drew up his own set of plans on paper and
Mhm.
used that as a guide to build that. I think there's the credit that is given there for the difference between doing something like that versus doing it on a computer is, if you're producing something in 3D on a computer, you have infinite opportunity to look at that file and tweak it to make
Right.
it perfect before you actually commit it to the printing process.
Right.
Whereas in creating that seaplane that he did, it's all literally done by hand, on the physical material all at one time.
Right.
So he didn't have a chance to tweak it in CAD before he printed out a wing or something like that.
Yeah. Theoretically, he'd be using measuring tools, right? He'd be using
Right.
maybe a mini lathe or like a mini milling machine to take advantage of that sort of perfection, right? Within the
Right.
tools to give him
Right.
those nice things. I personally find them very comparable, right? Like it's
I think the
Yeah.
process from start to finish is along the same path and along the
Yeah.
you're taking the same steps. The advantage that the guy on the CAD has is he has the opportunity to tweak that in the virtual world,
Yes.
whereas Steve might have had to make
A few.
four different wings before he got to the right one.
Yeah.
And so it's there's some credence given to the level of effort and the scratch building skill and the physical aspect of it that I
Sure.
think is missing from the ability to do it on 3D and CAD.
Yeah. Although it might
So
be part of the experience of 3D built, or people working with 3D projects, that they also have like a failure rate inside their
sure,
projects, right?
sure.
There's going to be
And
different
just
bumps on the road.
suffice to say that's going to be a hot topic,
Yeah.
for the next several years on how we treat and how we classify what comes out of the 3D printed world.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
As far as a model. But at the end of the day, what to circle back where we started here, is that you're still going to be judged on the final product that you put on the table.
Yeah.
You know, the judges are going to look at that in the same manner that they look at a model that was produced from a plastic kit that you bought from Tamiya or Edward or anybody else. So anyway, you know, not to belabor that point, because that, again, we're still in the very early stages of how all that stuff's going to be handled.
We had a discussion, the different challenges in trying to make a consistent judging rubric for judges to make consistent judging. And I think this is a topic that we're going to delve into also in a future date with a special guest as well, listeners. But we talked about that and how hard it is. So it'll be interesting to see how 3D is going to fit into that. Is that one of the goals for the executive board, was to work on a kind of judging, making it more kind of consistent and refining that, or is that left to the committee, the contest committee?
Well, both actually. So what's happening is, you know, there's a huge amount of change going on within IPMS right now, in particular with the contest committee. And I'm not going to get into a lot of the specifics there, but there's going to be there'll be some new folks step up and step into some new roles there. That is a natural evolution of the way that process works. In addition to that, one of the directives from the board for the NCC moving forward is we've asked them to look very closely at the judging criteria and the judging protocols that we use right now at the national contest. And this, you know, this is a huge elephant that you have to kind of take a bite at a time. So
yes,
what we suggested first is that each class, the team leaders and head judges for aircraft and ships and armor and figures and science fiction, and those guys get together and develop, basically take the IPMS basic construction criteria and protocols that we use right now to judge at the national contest, and tailor that information and document it specifically to that class of models. So I think we maybe touched on this a little last time about you know, judging an airplane is totally different than judging a figure.
Yeah.
You're still looking for the same basics in construction and finish.
But there's particulars.
There's particulars, and there are things that are more important from a basic construction standpoint on an aircraft than, or maybe a better way to say it is, there's a whole lot more room for error in some of the basic construction on an aircraft than there is for basic construction on a figure.
Yeah.
When you get a figure, it's, I mean, you might have to put some arms and legs on or something like that, but there's a whole lot, there's a whole different set of skills and parameters to getting a figure to the point where you're ready to paint it.
Yeah.
Than there is to getting an aircraft to the point where you're ready to paint it.
Oh, for sure. There's characteristics of each subject,
and
right?
And you can say the same thing about cars or ships or a science fiction subject. There's a different set of parameters there that apply to each of the classes. And so what we've asked the head class judges to do is to get with their guys and tailor those specific criteria and protocols on things that you look at to fit that class, and then document that. And that's the stuff that the particular judges for those classes, the categories within those classes, to look at while they're judging. You know, come up with a checklist so you make sure that you don't miss things and some of that kind of stuff.
And consistency.
And absolutely consistency.
Judge to judge.
And so, we've asked them to look at that. We've asked them to, we're gonna try to get the guys this summer to keep track of the time that they spend judging we have them keep track of how many models there are in a category before they start judging.
Yes. Yeah.
So say you've got a class of, I don't know, pick a category from armor, I guess, of 35th scale, closed top, blah, 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 whatever it is. And you got, maybe you had to split that and you got 25 tanks or vehicles in that class. So if you start judging that class at 8:02 p.m. and then you finally make your first, second, and third choice at 8:47 p.m. or something, we know we can use that data to say, okay, well, it took X number of minutes per model average to judge this class. And so we want to use that as some baseline data to figure out if some of these other things that we do will help us speed up the judging process.
Right.
And make it easier on the judges. If you have a checklist to go by or
definitely.
Something like that. So anyway, we're looking at that. We're reaching out to local clubs and some other organizations on, what are your best practices for the judging at your contests, and try and learn from each other here. And again, that's a long process.
For sure.
It's not going to happen between this NATS and next NATS that we have this, totally revamped judging system. It's going to be the same thing next year than it is in San Marcos for the most part.
Right.
But the point I'm trying to make is we're talking about it and we're open to some new ideas.
Yeah, and it might be time for. I mean, there's been that sort of perennial discussion about is IPMS going to ever consider changing from the 1, 2, 3 to the gold, silver, bronze, or do more of like an AMP style judging system? And people have argued both sides of that.
Yeah, and it's we're not at the point where we're really even ready to talk about it.
Yeah, it sounds like it's more research phase.
We have to figure out a way to articulate exactly what it is that we're looking at when we're judging a model and how we do it. We have to get to the basics first before we can have any more discussion about, that's not a judging discussion. That's an awards discussion.
Kind of more of the format of the contest.
Exactly. The awards format is a totally different discussion than the judging discussion.
Yeah. I've always noticed that, like being a judge myself, I've always wondered, wouldn't it be great to get a guide handed to you at the show that gives you some structure instead of just saying, I mean, I've been at shows where the contest judges have been, the head judge has been really great, and they usually gather people up and they sort of give you a bit of guidance, right? Look for fundamentals. But even that can be a little bit vague and broader, especially if somebody's coming on and they're a beginner or kind of only done it a few times. Their heads are spinning. And even by the time you're into it 2 hours, your head's spinning a little bit.
Sure. Well, let me just say this, that it doesn't take very long in any venue or medium you choose to get on. When you start talking about judging, in the scale modeling community, it's easy to get into a deep, dark argument in no time at all. And I'm going to say right off the bat here that for all the years we've been doing this, that the NCC does a really, really good job doing what they do at the national convention. It's the system is efficient and it does what it has to do, and those guys do a great job with it. It's the IPMS system, and it works for what we do in the situation that we're in on a Friday night at the Nats. Right. And they anybody can pick out an error in anything that you do, and nobody ever claimed to be perfect at doing this. But I'm here to tell you that in 99% of the cases, when you're looking at the models on the table, they get it right. And they pick the right first, second, and third out of each of those categories.
Yeah.
I think that the only thing that most folks are asking for is that, okay, when you get past that first, second, and third,
Yep.
the rest of the guys in that category get nothing, literally. And it's one thing not to place, and everybody, nobody can be a winner every time.
Mhm.
But I think what the real cry for from not just the membership, but people outside of IPMS,
Mhm.
that, one of their main beefs is, it's a winner take all system, and there's no feedback, beyond if you got first, second, or third, whether
Mhm.
whether you had whether you had a model that met the criteria, so to speak, to place at the
Yeah.
contest.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that we're really trying to work on at the local level in several clubs is what is an efficient medium to be able to judge a model and record the things that you find wrong with it in an efficient medium to get that feedback back to the
Mhm.
contestant so he can use that information to be a better model,
Yeah.
to fix the mistakes.
Absolutely. And that we all know that that's a really common want out of the contest, and something that would genuinely help people, whether you're a member or just a participant at the show, for
Right.
sure.
And quite frankly, that's not an easy thing to make happen.
Yeah.
And my suspicion is it's not going to be an inexpensive thing to make happen, which is a consideration. We have folks within the society that are looking at ways to do that right now. And it's,
Yeah.
as I said, it takes time, effort, and in some cases money to make stuff like that happen. But my point is, again, we're looking into some of these things, and we're scratching the surface on some of it, just trying to figure out if it's a viable thing we could do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it must be. It's just it's a matter of kind of how to execute it, right, and how to make it. Is this one of the committee's goals? Like, is it something you're just looking at very peripherally, or is it actually one of the main goals to add feedback to the system, the contest system?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We've got plans after the convention to work with the NCC to form some exploratory committees to look into these things.
Okay, that'd be huge, I
And
think.
it just, we'll look at it. We'll see if we can make some of these things mesh with what we've got. And,
Mhm.
again, we'll try to pick the best practices out of what we find out and make some decisions on there as to where it goes.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I think that would be a huge that'd be a huge win, I think, for contest attendees everywhere, for sure. So since we're sort of on the topic there, I know we briefly talked about this, but switching from a 1, 2, 3 to a gold, silver, bronze, is that something that's being seriously looked at, or is it just kind of the usual
Not
chit
at this
chat?
stage, not at
Yeah.
this stage of the game, Anthony. That's,
Okay.
until we can get our ducks in a row and we feel comfortable that our judging is consistent
Right.
from category to category and class to class,
Yeah, I see.
and from show to show.
Yes. That's always a
If
problem.
that's, again, if the membership decides that that's the direction that they want to go,
Hmm.
the board is going to listen to the people that want to make things happen.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I think that's definitely something. Maybe we'll come back to that topic at another date, and we can get into some nitty gritty about just theoretically kind of how they work, and
Right.
and
Well, and
if
just
they could work. Yeah.
you have to recognize that there are some logistical challenges
Oh, for sure.
to to both ways of doing things.
Yes.
And again, we would rather focus on the knitting at this point
Yes.
and make sure that the criteria and the procedures and I mean, even things like trying to make the contest room environment as close to consistent from year to year to year as we
Yeah.
can. We've been taking photometric lighting levels at each of our contests, trying to figure out what's the right lumen level of lighting to be able
Oh yeah, I
to
mean, lighting's
effectively judge.
always an issue.
And if it's not, how do we level the playing field? If we allow the judges to use some sort of supplemental lighting,
Yeah.
it has to be the same. You have to have the
Yeah.
same apparatus for each team to be able to look at things. Otherwise, it's not a level playing field from category to category.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
So it's like I say, it's a complicated elephant
Oh,
to
for sure.
try to chew up.
And I think anyone who's done any judging, it's always chaos. It doesn't matter if it's a local show or something more on a national scale like Wonderfest or IPMS Nats. It's always chaotic, right? And certainly you can only, as an executive, you can only really look at one problem at a time and sort of build on them.
Right. And the fact of the matter is you really, at the end of the day, at any given show or any given contest, you're at the mercy of who shows up.
Yes.
To help with the judging.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes it goes great and you got a lot of good experienced judges. And then, I can testify from a local standpoint that some days you don't have the right guys and it's, your check judges are just worn out by the end of the day because they got to go back and basically take folks to school on, are you sure this, did you look at this right? And it's
right.
And it's,
so it's an experience level too, right?
Absolutely. And so again, the whole effort is to try to make that component as consistent as we can make it within reason from category to category and class to class and from one year to the next, from show to show, so that people know what, at some point the consistency becomes something that you can expect.
Yes. And I think, Rob, you have your work cut out for you. And I think we'll all be very interested to see what you guys come up with in terms of that. And I hope that we do have a chance to get together in the future to discuss it a bit more. But why don't you tell us a bit more about some of the other things that the exec is working on? I know you've mentioned some proposed changes to the journal. Why don't you tell us about that? What are your plans for the journal?
Well, there's no proposed changes just yet. We will be we will be putting some folks together to look at the journal from the standpoint of and you're probably going to hear a lot about, you're going to probably hear this term a lot from me if you talk to me very many more times, and that is, in the school I came from, most of the companies that I worked for, we talked about the quality process and how to reduce the cost to your company of things that didn't meet your quality expectations. So the first thing you have to do in that process is you have to define the requirements. And so, we'll be asking these teams to look at their individual areas of responsibility. So in the case of the journal, we'll be asking that committee to look at the journal and, what is the journal supposed to be? What are the requirements of it? It's, it has evolved over the years from being basically a newsletter to put down on paper what the goings on in the society are, what the contest coming up might be. And then it progressed and it became something where folks would send in research material for other modelers to be able to use, and a few pictures and here and there. And remember, this is back in the days of typewriters and
Snail
early
mail
Xerox,
yeah.
early Xerox machines, and
Yeah.
so it was a lot of effort for 2 or 3 guys to put that thing together and then mail it
for
out to
sure.
the, maybe 400 or 500 members of the society back in the 60s when this all started. And so, just like our discussion last time, you fast forward ahead 60 years and my God, look at the differences in technology that we have to work with nowadays.
Oh yeah.
And so, the journal now is, we advertise, we get, a lot of the same folks that advertise in Fine Scale Modeler and To Me a Model magazine and AFV Modeler and, all of the slick European and magazines and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, at that stage, I think we have to recognize that it's apples and oranges, and that the intent of the journal is to be it was the vehicle by which we let the society know what was going on at the national level. And so
has that
effectively
now?
it's a newsletter. And so, we followed suit, and we've got all these project articles in there that, here's my model and here's what I did to do it. And so, when it comes right down to it, those are good models and they're from good people and they're good articles for what it is, but it's not meant to compete with To Me a Model magazine on, just think of the sheer number of pictures that are the difference between the two mediums. And so it's apples and oranges. So, some of the questions that we probably need to ask ourselves is what is, again, going back to the original premises to define the requirements. What is it that the journal really needs to do as the newsletter for IPMS USA?
Right.
And can we find a more cost efficient way to do that? We've got this new wild apricot system that can send out an email to all, 4,500 to 5,000 members of IPMS in a matter of minutes. And so if the goal of the journal is to serve as a newsletter for the society, there isn't any reason that can't be put together, say once a month as a quick PDF, 10-page document.
So it sounds to me
and emailed to the membership. So again,
questioning the relevancy of that format nowadays.
Well, not necessarily the relevancy, but what is the purpose? What is the purpose and the requirements of the IPMS journal as a newsletter for the society? So, we're going to be asking those guys to ask those questions of themselves. And, I don't know Chris Buckholz very well. He's the editor of the journal, but I can tell you he works his butt off.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
To get that periodical out every couple of months. And I've reached out, told Chris, what can we do to make your job easier, and how can we help you do your job to do this? And so again, we'll have this group of folks, and they'll sit down and they'll evaluate this from one end to the other and come up with some recommendations on, what's the best way forward to keep the journal and make it more relevant and more useful for what it is that we need it to do.
Yeah, I think it sounds like you do have you're exploring kind of what's the role of this thing. And I remember having issues of like we have the Canadian version of it, and you would have amazing people would send in like scale drawings of conversions.
Right.
So it was all like people would do all the legwork, and there was no other way of getting that. Nowadays, we have so many more options for research, right? Like any subject, any category, you can find a ton of stuff just by going to Google. So I
Right.
think
Well, there's
have some questions to ask, I guess, about.
yeah. I mean, there's
Yeah.
been we've chatted about it in some of our local groups here and local clubs about, you know, it would the journal be better served by highlighting, you know, 3 or 4 contests, local club contests around the country
Yeah.
for each issue, and, you know, getting some well done photographs of the winners.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to get every first, second, and third, but if you publish the best of class from each of those shows in
Yes.
a good quality photograph in the magazine, you know, that's good for everybody else in the society to see that work. But and it's certainly a kudo to the builder of that model to have his model published in the IPMS journal as,
Yeah,
you
that
know,
makes sense.
the best aircraft from whatever show.
Yeah. Well, so there's
And
obviously
so
ideas.
yeah, we there's lots of questions, lots of things to consider.
This kind of leads me to wonder a little bit about the SIGs, the special interest groups.
Right.
So that's something that's been I think a hot topic in terms of you getting feedback from the just online and from the membership and the modeling community at large. And obviously Facebook kind of fills in that role.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about the executives' plans for the SIGs. How are they, you know, differentiated from just like a Facebook group that somebody randomly starts about, you know, Sherman builders or
Right.
So
right.
what's going on with that? It seems like that's kind of something very important to people. How's the organization going to implement that?
Sure. Well, I think that's an untapped resource for us. But to be perfectly blunt and answer your question, there's not really a whole lot going on with that today.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that we're going to put together an exploratory committee to look at that.
Yeah.
And see what the right branches off of that should be. What we recognize is that what we have right now is basically just a listing of SIG groups that are active and or inactive on our website. And anybody can go there. They can look at the SIG page and see it's basically just a referral list. So if you're interested in say the Civil War, then here's a Civil War SIG group called Blue and Gray, and that's what these guys do. Here's the contact, here's their Facebook page, here's their website if they have one.
So it's a directory.
It's basically a directory at this point.
Which is
and
useful.
So,
I mean, to connect with people.
And so what our exploratory committees are going to have to look for are, how do we take a SIG group and use it to create relationships with modelers?
Mm-hmm.
How can IPMS facilitate that? And if we're nothing more than a directory and a clearinghouse, that's one thing. But what we're trying to figure out is how we can be more involved in the bigger plan of SIGs. For instance, I think you're going to see some tables at the 2024 National Convention that are set up just for SIG groups to be able to show their models. It'll be a display area. It won't be part of the competition.
Yeah.
That's not to say that a SIG doesn't put forth a group build and enter it into the competition as in that category as a group build to be judged. But if the show in the UK is an example, then what we're trying to consider is there a desire here in the States for SIG groups to come to the nationals from all over the country? You know, SIG groups have various members that are going to be in different places in the country.
Of course, yeah.
And how many of those guys will come to make a trip to the Nats with models to put on a table and, you know, show off their wares as a SIG group like they do in the UK.
I think people would
we think
definitely,
they're
be interested in that.
It's our gut feel is there's a pretty strong desire to be able to do that. But again, we got to do the homework and see how that plays out
Okay,
before we
interesting.
formalize a lot of this process.
Yeah. So, boy, you guys are really almost from the ground up, it seems like, investigating all these sort of these different topics around.
Sure. And there's,
being a national
there's lots
organization.
there's lots of overlap between these things too.
Yes.
Because what the SIG groups might want to do at a convention, has to intermesh with the National Convention Steering Committee so that they can plan for that stuff.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 years into the future.
Right.
And if you get a big SIG presence, we got to find bigger venues
perhaps,
to be able to hold this, to hold a convention, which leads into a whole different set of questions about, okay, if
logistics.
We get a big, the logistics of it, what's affordable, are the members willing to pay, I think right now it's a $55 to $65 fee to attend the convention.
Right.
If we go to bigger venues with more folks, we got to, the cost of attending the convention might necessarily have to go up to
interesting,
$100 or $125 or whatever. Again, there's a lot of moving parts to all this that have to be considered.
And I know I can think of a couple. I guess essentially they're fundamentally SIG groups. For example, the first one I'll give you is at Wonderfest. One of the themes was this year was the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. So just kind of a notable film. And there was a huge display in its own room. And it was a bunch of people. I don't know how they attended that, but high level model builders that had this very impressive display of stuff related to that. So Star Wars things, really interesting. It was a highlight. People were coming to look at that. It was outside of the contest, and it was fantastic. I spent time looking at the stuff. Another one that I noted is I think in Japan they're called the VF Riders, and it's like a Macross building club, and I always see their builds. It's always on a table at a show, and there's 50 different Valkyrie planes. And I'm attracted to that. I want to see what they were doing. And it's just, a club. It's a little mini club that does a display. We were just discussing about logistics of actually hosting this stuff. So it can be done. And I know one of your other things that you've been looking at is how to sort of streamline the contest since it moves from location to location.
Right.
So can you speak a little bit to what that challenge looks like for you guys? Because it rotates between region every year.
Well, that's again, that's one of the things that the convention steering committee is looking at, and we're trying to get feedback from within the membership right now.
Yeah.
Is years ago the society tried to stay on this East Coast, West Coast, Central national convention location.
Yep.
And as the convention grew in scope and cost and everything that goes along with it, it became increasingly difficult to convince local clubs and local chapters to put together a bid to host the nationals, because just the scope of the whole convention has grown so much over the years that it's difficult to get a leadership team together within a local club to handle everything that has to be handled.
It sounds impossible, Rob. Like even getting a local show together is sometimes such a big task.
Right. So you take that and magnify it, to the scope of the nationals, and and I think we recognize that now. So we're encouraging regional teams basically to explore putting on the nationals. And I know that's what we've done in Texas this year. We've got about 4 different people from about 4 different clubs that have put forth folks that are on this leadership team to put this convention together this summer.
Yeah.
And so, recognizing that, the NCSC is trying to put the documentation together to make it easier for those groups to bid and hold a convention without reinventing the wheel every time you do it. It just we've taken a lot of the risk away from the local clubs. Number one, financially, the local groups don't have to put out anything dollar wise other than the effort and what little bit they might have to spend to put together their initial presentation to bid on the Nats. There's some soft costs, I'm sure, that are involved with that, but we've got some good financial models for the convention as a whole, and we've developed some fill in the blank spreadsheets for groups to be able to use to see if they can make the financial end of it work at the locations that they're proposing to use. It involves some close coordination with the folks at those venues to make sure that that all the slots get filled in that financial model to be sure it works financially. Nobody wants to do this, and all of a sudden we realize we lost, you lost $100,000 trying to put on this convention. So it's not rocket science, but it's a lot of work, and it can be very tedious because, again, there's gotten to be so many components of this thing. You got to have a contest coordinator. You got to have a leader, of course. You got to have somebody to handle working with the venue. You have to have somebody that works with the vendors. You have to have a contest coordinator. You have to have somebody to do the awards and the merch and the T-shirts. And
it's a year's worth of work.
It's more than a year's worth of work.
For sure.
It's a couple of years worth of work, at least, by the time you bid it and then actually put it all together and do it. So we've tried to take and standardize a lot of that stuff at the national level and give people a guidebook that makes sense, so that you don't, you try not to repeat mistakes. Is the point.
Not reinventing the wheel either. There should It's been done before. It's a matter of just kind of localizing it to a new place.
So to circle back to the original question, if we can, in a perfect world, we could get back to this East Coast, West Coast, Central national convention location rotation, so that the guys on the East Coast, I don't remember when the last convention was on the West Coast, but it has been quite some time. We've been in Vegas and Phoenix, which is as close as we've gotten to the West Coast in what I can remember in my time going. I remember that there was one in Anaheim, but I didn't get to go to that one. But it would be great to have a show actually on the West Coast again soon. I would dearly love to see it happen in Seattle. Just a personal wish of mine to get up there and go to those great museums that are up there. And the Boeing factory and all that's associated with that. And again, that's from an airplane guy's perspective. But there's the problem is finding venues that are affordable for we require a huge amount of square footage. In relation to the number of room nights that we have in the hotel. That's what those venues look at to pay for all this. So you got to run the cost models and make sure it works before you can find stuff. And again, if we get into this mode where we're looking for larger venues, for larger conventions that need more square footage, then obviously the cost has to go up. So, we're going to be asking a lot of questions of the membership about, what's where is our break-even point in putting all this stuff together? Are you willing to pay more? Are you willing to pay more for a hotel room? Are you willing to pay more for your convention registration fee in order to get this extra square footage to do these other things? So
it sounds so much more difficult than a convention that's held at a consistent city year to year in the same facility, like the same hotel. It really does sound difficult.
And so, again, in trying to listen to our membership, the thought is, okay, so not everybody can go to the Nats every year because it's frankly too expensive and too far to go. If you lived in, say, Virginia Beach and the convention is in the LA area, that's a major trip to plan for expense wise and logistically and all that. So we've pondered the idea of, okay, what if we could get the regions on the East Coast to put together a regional show, call it an East Coast regional show, and maybe it's 2 or 3 regions get together and put a leadership team together to do, for lack of a better way to describe it, a mini Nats on the East Coast if the Nats is on the West Coast, so that those guys that can't get to the West Coast have a major show to be able to go to that's more than just a local show and contest.
Yeah.
So if you could put together a 2-day show that involves an overnight trip, and you get a little jazzier with the contest and some seminars and some of that kind of stuff, and people get a chance to get together and go to dinner on Friday or Saturday night or whatever. Again, we're very early in the discussion stages of a lot of that kind of stuff, but again, we need feedback from the membership on those sorts of initiatives to see whether there's a desire to do it in the first place, and then if that proves true, then can we find people to volunteer to be in positions of leadership to put that stuff together?
That's the hard one, is finding a consistent, I'm guessing here, but that's going to be the most challenging component of trying to execute any plan, is having the people, manpower, person power to do anything.
Yeah, that's strictly long-term strategic thinking. That's years in the making. So some of the stuff that we're looking at that's a little more immediate are we figured out here recently, and obviously, that we need some sort of a social engagement committee.
Now, is this committee also going to be responsible for getting some of the feedback that you've been talking about, like getting sort of quantifying some of the information or like the answers to these questions?
Absolutely. We realized pretty obviously, like a 2x4 up the side of the head in the last month or so, that we've got to put forth a more effective presence on social media.
Right.
And we're already there on Facebook, but it looks to me like we need some kind of reorganization of some of that stuff, and we need people to be able to do that. So we're talking about putting together a social engagement committee that would somehow figure out how to establish and maintain these positive and effective presence on social media.
Right.
And if that's the case, then what would be relevant content? Does IPMS need to have a podcast? Does IPMS need to go into competition with the Plastic Posse and Scale Model Podcast and the Model Geeks and the Australian guys? There's all these great podcasts out there. There's enough podcasts, and they're so good that I get pissed at myself because I can't listen to it all. And I want to,
right.
There's a lot of content out there. So if IPMS was to do a podcast, maybe that plays off what we're trying to do with the journal. We make it something that maybe it was once a month, and we pick some guys with good voices, good radio voices that can put something together that just says, hey, here's what's going on within IPMS USA this month.
Well, you're always welcome on SMP to come and come on and give us an update of what you guys been doing. We're happy to hear and to spread the word.
We've had that suggested to us on to put forth a podcast, but again, each of you guys has your own little niche of what it is that you do, and the last thing we need to do is go in and try to compete with with you guys and the posse and Mojo
Right.
for content. And so if it's just a fact-based, here's what's going on, maybe there's some credence to that. I don't know. But again, that's something that these guys will talk about.
Yeah.
Along that line, what would an online YouTube presence look like for
Right.
IPMS USA? You know, there's again, it's what else is out there, and you don't want to you want to be respectful of the other content providers. So what would IPMS have to offer on a YouTube channel? What would the membership go to YouTube to see as
Interesting.
strictly IPMS content? A lot of questions about that. You know, there's a lot of opportunities. You know,
Yeah.
maybe like consider chapter meeting channels where you broadcast your social or your your chapter meeting
Right.
on a YouTube channel. Some folks have done that.
Yeah.
Online build sessions. I certainly think there's room for our reviewer core to, you know, step up the game a little bit and make some YouTube video based reviews to do something like that. But again, that takes time, resources, and people.
And some
to
of
be
those
able to
things
do
are
that.
some of those things are already covered. Like you can get a lot of like Fine Scale Modeler does their little new product roundups, and you can get a lot of that stuff. So it seems like that IPMS, you're at a bit of a crossroads, right? You're trying to redefine who you are in this new era of where social media is really kind of turning everything on its head.
There's a ton of ideas there. We thought about maybe modeling event live feeds. There was some talk about doing a live feed of the award ceremony from San Marcos this summer. I don't think that's gone anywhere, but it's certainly something that could be done. Maybe some sort of a seminar pay-per-view on YouTube or some sort of social media platform of our seminars that we do at the Nats. You know, but again, you got to get cameras, you got to get the infrastructure and people to do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, along with that, you know, kind of along the line of the national convention is, you know, we're going to look at an industry relations committee.
Okay.
We're going to reach out to the manufacturers and ask the question, how can IPMS help you? How can we help you? Well, it's
done in the past.
It's there. It hasn't reached its potential, I think is the right way to say it. You know, how can we work with the industry representatives to make the Nats and the vendor room a better experience for them? You know, how can we help you? Let's face it, those guys are there to sell product and make money.
Yeah.
So how can we make that easier for you? What is it we can do to make that a better experience for you to come to the Nats and sell your products?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about just the Tamiyas and the Edwards and the, you know, the bigger,
like the smaller garage,
but I'm talking
producers.
about you know, the guy who has, you know, 10 things that he offers, but he's trying to grow. He's found something and found a niche.
Right.
You know, how can we make it easier for you to participate and sell your stuff at the Nats?
That's interesting.
And become more of a presence.
Yeah, I know that my pal Sean, who currently handles the Super Saiyan blocks and has his own range of 3D modeling tool products, he's exactly the kind of guy you're talking about. Can't afford to go to the big show. Like it's not a feasible thing. So yeah, I mean, there's an opportunity there to kind of trickle down to like the smaller, you know, aftermarket accessory, these small producers, garage kit producers, or whatever, like that level of individual sellers. But I mean, that's some of that stuff is the coolest stuff, right?
Yeah, we'd love to revive the make and take program.
Yeah.
But you know, again, what manufacturer can afford to dump, you know, 200 or 300 kits into the pool for IPMS to give away to kids for free? You know, even if they're snap type kits, you know. So
there's lots of examples.
You know, there's a happy medium somehow that we could get to that, I think, with a with a cost compensation or something like that. But again, these are things we're trying to talk about. If nothing else, we can establish a vehicle for, dare I say, IPMS members to have a pipeline to the industry manufacturers to say, hey, here are the subjects we're looking at that we're interested in building that aren't currently offered.
Well, that's cool. People would
And
love that.
Enough people say, hey, and a personal mission of mine is I want a 48 scale HH3 Jolly Green Giant kit, a
Right.
good kit, because that's what my dad flew in Vietnam.
Yeah.
There isn't one. The closest thing is the Hasegawa SH3 kit, which takes way more
Too much
work than I'm capable of putting into it to make it happen.
But I think that's something that would be a hit with people.
Sure. A modeling education committee is something we're thinking about. We'd like to revive the ABC program to redevelop that adult build class with a curriculum that can be passed down to the local clubs to teach guys how to build you get a course outline built around a given kit.
Right.
Youth outreach programs are that's an absolute natural for us. But again, you got to find the people at the local level that are willing to do that and go out and hold a class at a church or a Cub Scout group or whatever.
Right. Well, it sounds like you guys have a lot of great ideas, and it sounds like you're not sure which direction, because there's only so many hours in the day that you guys can develop on stuff, and you have an amazing show. I think everyone can appreciate that. The Nats is a destination. It's an event that's on everyone's calendar. But yeah, I think the future, it's almost sounds like you guys aren't quite sure what you want to do, but that it's wide open and there's a lot of possibility.
Well, like I said, we got lots of ideas and a lot of good ideas, but
yes,
you don't want to just walk off into the weeds and start something, and the next thing you know, you're in the middle of a bunch of snakes. So we've got to put the thought into it. We've got to get the right people. Got to get the right people involved and put them in the leadership positions to be able to take care of that stuff, which is why it's so important. I'll make this request again to everybody that's listening. If you're an IPMS member, please use the power of your vote. We've got the e-board elections that are out right now. Yep. Everybody's running unopposed, so that's
wow, that's not a good sign.
But it is what it is, and it I think the future will change that. But vote. We've got to get at least 10% of the membership to vote to make it a valid election.
Right.
And the other thing that is, at least to me, is more important is the amendments to the Constitution. Mm-hmm. Voting yes on that will allow us to put in place the structure that we need to try to get some of these initiatives going, and to be able to delegate authority, responsibility, and leadership to make these things happen.
Absolutely. So listen, let's recap for listeners. So it sounds like getting feedback from the actual members and also the general modeling community is really critical. So again, let people know, listeners know, where should they be directing their input?
The fastest and easiest way to get it to the e-board to consider is to send me an email to IPMS SEC, that's IPMS SEC, at IPMSUSA.org.
Okay.
That's my direct email address, and
we'll put that in the show notes as well.
I keep track of all of the emails that come in, and if it's a good idea, I try to respond to everybody if I can. I'm a little tight for time right now, getting ready for the Nats, but particularly after the next 2 or 3 weeks get by and the smoke clears, all the emails that come in, I look at them, I try to respond to them, I put them into a folder on the computer to be brought up at the next board meeting for consideration if a good idea. So we're listening. We want to do what you want. So
awesome. Now, speaking of upcoming Nats, that's right around the corner. Remind everybody what's going on with that awesome show, when it is, where it is.
Okay. Of course, it's the IPMS USA National Convention. This year's theme is Come and Make It. We've got lots of great seminars on how to improve your skills as a scale modeler. It's held from August 2nd through August 5th at the Embassy Suites and Convention Center in San Marcos, Texas. If you're flying in, Austin is the better airport to come to. Of course, San Antonio is also there. It's a little more convenient drive-wise once you land from Austin than it is from San Antonio. It's usually cheaper to fly into Austin than it is into San Antonio. Look for the last-minute deals if you want to fly in.
Are the rooms sold out yet, or
the rooms in the Embassy Suites are sold out? But get a hold of the hotel, and people are canceling. People that can't come are canceling their rooms. So, we've got a short wait list that Lynn's been trying to keep, but that's again the best way to get a room at the host hotel is to call the host hotel and ask them if there's rooms available for the nights that you want to go, because cancellations happen every day. You never know. There's several there are rooms in the area, and they're affordable. They're affordable. It's, within 2 exits either way on I-35 from the convention center. Very reasonably priced rooms. If you've got a rental car or if you're driving, so there's plenty of rooms available within 4 or 5 miles either way of the venue.
Right on. I think it's going to be a heck of a show. Yeah.
Come participate. Get your fill of the best barbecue in the universe.
I bet.
Within a 30 or 45-minute drive of the venue, it's literally the center of the universe for Texas barbecue.
Wow.
There's probably 40, 50 really, really good barbecue establishments if that's your thing.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
I'll give a personal plug for the Burnt Bean in Seguin. It's 30 minutes south of the venue. It is by far the best barbecue I've ever eaten, and I'm a pretty shrewd judge of barbecue.
Well, there you go, listeners. You've got it straight from the horse's mouth. The best barbecue meal you're going to have while you're at Nats. So, of course, we hope everyone does get a chance to attend. We want to wish you guys the best of luck with that from SMP. We are sure it's going to be a banger of a show. And I hope to make it out myself at one point, but we know you're going to have a great time, and it's going to be a big hit. So we also want to thank you, Rob, for securing that sweet prize for us. So listeners, when you send in your whips, and if you get lucky, then you'll be able to go to next year's Nats. So we appreciate that, and to the executive for putting that motion through. And but Rob, we're gonna hear from you again, right? We're gonna get together and talk about more judging, nitty gritty, right?
Sure.
Sometime in the future.
Let the smoke clear from the Nationals, and we'll talk models.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for spending all that time with us and kind of letting us pick your brain about what exactly has been going on. And it sounds like you have a lot of hard questions ahead of you, but it sounds like you're up for the task as well, Rob. So thank you for coming on.
Well, I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing everybody in San Marcos, and we'll talk again soon.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Have a good one.
So, what do you think, listeners? As a sci-fi modeler, primarily, I have always felt a little bit soured on IPMS. But, after speaking with Rob, I feel hopeful. Maybe good things are on the horizon. It seems like they really care about changing for the better and being more inclusive. One thing remains, they have a lot of work to do. So we'll all keep our eyes on that. All right, Anthony out. See you next time.
Okay, great part 2. All right, some things we've seen. Like I said, we're recording this on Monday night. on the 7th, and a little bit of things blown up. Things blow up at Facebook.
Speak about segues, eh? We're segueing
segues.
from your
I know.
interview with IPMS to talk about things blowing up from coming out of the Nats with respect to the shot of a judge who was picking up a model.
Oh,
well, not only picking up a model,
goodness.
but sticking it above his head,
Waving
using a
it around in
phone
the
as a
air?
flashlight. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Now
It's triggered a real discussion, which is interesting because there's quite a few people who are basically saying, "Hey, you don't pick up my model. I mean, you could drop it, you could break it. What's the point of looking underneath it? All that stuff." Now, the IPMS U.S. rules for judging says that the judges can pick up models and look underneath it, and they're supposed to judge a three-dimensional model as being a full representation of the real three-dimensional vehicle. So they should be looking under it. They don't say it, but I think it's a given that you only do that if you're into a close call situation between two comparable kits that have blown through all the other, gates that you have.
Even then,
I agree.
Yeah.
And the biggest issue to me, like, I could sort of understand some of the argument, but what I couldn't understand is why you do it without gloves on. And
and that was a big thing. And there was several people commenting who were judges there. At the judges meeting, judges were specifically told not to pick up the models, period.
Interesting.
And there would be chief judges that may have to do it, and they would use gloves. But apparently not all the judges made the meeting. So I'm not sure if that particular judge did or not, but this is, we're getting this as it's blowing up. But I think there's some interesting stuff there. And, Carrie Trayer from IPMS Canada put some comments on too. And, again, in theory, it's roughly the same in Canada, but it's always been an unwritten rule. So I think it's something we might, nail down a bit for our local show. I'll talk to the show committee. Yeah. Because, it's different when it's on a turntable or something like that. And even then we absolutely hate when we, during shows, when you have splits of categories, or one of the things I'm doing this weekend is I've got to send our chief judge a labeled floor plan of all the display tables, so he can figure out roughly where the aircraft category begins, where the ship category begins. And we inevitably have to move things. And, we try and do PA announcements and stuff like that. But yeah, it's blown up quite a lot. And I believe the judge itself, he actually commented too. I don't know if that was necessarily a good idea on his part, but there you go.
I think he came in to try and explain himself, and that's fine. That's fair.
Yeah.
He's entitled to do that. But the bottom line was probably a mistake.
He was told right away, put it down. So he was corrected that behavior.
Now I will speak. I will give an example from my personal experience, very recent personal experience. Last week, week and a half ago, my mother and brother were down for a few days and spending time with us. And my mother is 92 years old, and she wanted to read the article that I wrote for IPMS Canada's magazine about my B47 build. And then she wanted to see it, and then she wanted to hold it. And she broke the access door off just picking it up. So, don't let people hold your models, people. Not even your mother. Not even your mother.
Your poor mother. I
think to your point there earlier, Stu, about the having to shift, I've been in that position where it's in the wrong category. It's a table away. And that is done with purpose and intent to get it from point A to point B as carefully and quickly as possible without, being rough with it. But waving it around in the air, like there's, is that a 2-second thing? It's too nebulous, right?
Yeah.
It's just a mistake.
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant, right?
This was a tank. I mean, I can see if it was a truck or something where you see all the suspension and everything, but I mean, what can you see under the tank? The insides of the suspension, maybe.
But every model that's put
even so
by the builder, right, is intentionally they're displaying to you what they want to show off. Yeah. So I think, and this was brought up in the interview I did with Rob, we talked about looking at the things on the table, right? That you judge what's on the table, even to keep it simple for the judges, right? Like you don't need to make it more complicated by comparing bottoms that you can't see, right? You look at now let's say you have a model of a tank on a base, and you know, by the base you angle it so you can see the backside or the other side. Hey, you're a careful, experienced judge. I can see you're not lifting it off the table, right? Or you have to move it to get the information card out. Boy, that happens a lot when you're judging. You got to find out, well, who is this person, so you can enter it into the form and whatnot. And you got to be really careful. And if I could add one extra point, to Jeff earlier mentioned about, well, you have a close call. You've got two beautiful models. You're almost stuck, right? I was recently in this position with Ian, the head judge from Hamilton, at the last Toronto show, where we were trying to redo the category of modern 48 scale jets, and it was a split category that there were so many entries, and boy, there was a lot of good entries in that category. It was basically the king of the categories, right? And it had to get broken up into NATO and non-NATO. We were the second team asked to come and reassess the first team's judgments, and it was a little bit intense. And so we ended up looking at two CF-18s, very similar, I think maybe similar kits, both at a very high level, and we were able to kind of ascertain which one would edge out the other, and I mean edge out by the tiniest of tiny hairs, because they were both so good. We ended up just looking at it and almost going through, okay, we're looking at the left wing on this one, move over, look at the left wing on subject B, and then we noticed, all right, one guy had the missile attached to the pylon. There was a slight gap, the slightest of slight, like I'm talking about a 32nd of an inch weird angle compared to the other side of the plane, and the other guy had all the ordnance perfect. So you can do your judging role by just looking at it and comparing and being methodical and working your way from, like, tip to tail or whatever. But that guy, that would drive me nuts. I'd be really cheesed off at that fellow.
Well, I
think we should say too, because we don't know the guy, we don't know the context. We've just seen the picture, and every one of these judges is a volunteer. Nobody's paid for these positions, and so my guess is that it was done with good intent, but it shouldn't have been done.
Right. Yeah. We don't want to. He didn't break it, right?
Yeah. Let's hope.
We would. I'm sure we would have heard.
Yeah, we would have heard, I'm sure, by now. Yep. Now, I should point out our friends at On the Bench. They did an episode, I think 2 weeks ago, where they actually had Ian on from IPMS Hamilton and the president of AMPS in the US, and they went through a really good discussion about the differences in the judging systems, and it's well worth a listen if you have any involvement or interest. That episode, it's 167. I'm going to throw it in the show notes, and it was well worth a time to listen.
You sending our listeners to a competitor? What the hell? Of
course I am. Of course they send them to us too sometimes. Well, we know that they're going to be, the competitors are going to be sad when next year's Moosaroo is announced, right?
Yeah, I know. How can they beat a pink truck? They're not going to be able to beat a pink truck.
I know what they're going to do. Okay. Also, speaking of Nats, our good friend of the show, John Bonanni, who's also on the executive, he posted to Facebook, "We just finished a fantastic national convention. It's great to share your experiences and important to provide feedback." So they are asking for feedback. I put the Facebook link on. There's a very good one, but in particular, there's a post by a young man in his 20s named Jackson Stanton. And he has a huge list and some very good things. And some other people have said, excellent thoughts from a 20-something-year-old modeler whose build was in consideration for best armor. Pay attention to the thoughts of the future generation of the hobby and consider them instead of just instantly discounting like some already have. So just, again, well worth a read. And if I know John, he'll make sure the rest of the IPMS board reads these comments. Yeah, very, very good.
Yeah.
So well worth looking at that.
And so does Rob Booth. I know that he's been very active in, reviewing, and actually garnering feedback about things so they can make informed decisions about going forward and doing a better job. That's what they're really
exactly.
That's really what they're after.
I should also point out they finally did table risers this year, but our good friends at IPMS Hamilton did it first. Just
awesome.
Just going to throw that out there. We're going to be doing it too. Okay. And Terry, you put in the XF85 Goblin video.
Yep,
I see.
I put a YouTube link to an XP85 Goblin.
All right, there you go.
1948.
1948.
48.
God, so long ago.
Awesome.
So we're also sponsored by our good friends at Return to Kit Form. You want stuff to do with Gundam or Macross and Mass and stuff like that, check them out. I know Anthony's got an order, and I've got 1 or 2 items piggybacked on that, according to Brett. He's throwing a few things in for me on that order there, Anthony. So always good fun, great stuff. Make sure you check them out at return2kitform.com. More modeling podcast goodness. Check out the other modeling podcasts at modelpodcast.com. You know what's funny? We added 2 more when I was on the call with James and Malcolm at Just Making Conversation. 2 guys in the chats, 2 new podcasts asked if they could join our little consortium. So we have added them. You have the AM show and the Modeling Insanity podcast. So yeah, and they both sound like a lot of fun. So they're on the list now. I believe there's 12 now, 12 or 13 different podcasts, and there's more out there. They just haven't chosen, to join us, group of the cool kids, right? All right. I think that's it, guys. Anything else from anyone? Anyone?
I don't think so.
Bueller.
All right, we'll do our standard sign off. Terry will be last. Anthony, you'll be after Jeff. So for this episode 123, my name is Stuart Clark.
I'm Jeff Highland.
I'm Anthony Goodman.
I'm Terry Measley, reminding you that it's summertime. Don't even bother to stay focused. Don't even bother to try to say. I can't even get it out.
See, he's not focused.
To do that.
I lost my focus.
That's all right.
Womp, womp, womp.
Thank you and be well.